For those of you on this episode of the Campy Cast, press play now.
Three, two, one.
Hiya, Kermit. Is something wrong? Oh, hey, Fozzie. Just Miss Piggy and she and I haven't been seeing eye to eye lately. Have you tried stilts? Mm, it just become money. Just with money becoming tight, her modeling gig really became her main source of income. So she was the one bringing home the bacon. Waka waka. Yeah. So now with all that added pressure, it seems as though she resents me. She must be burnt out. Burnt? Do you mean well done or extra crispy? Well, now that we're talking divorce and if she has her way, she'll take everything. I guess you could say she went straight for your piggy bank. Waka waka. She's taking the kids, Fozzie. Oh, wow. Yeah, I know you like to joke, Fozzie, but this is a really serious situation. My life is crumbling around me. I'm sorry, Kermit. It's just how I communicate. I don't care, Fozzie. Sometimes you need a friend to talk to me normally. Fozzie, Fozzie, I guess you could say my life's about to croak. Waka waka, good one, Kermit. Oh, thanks, Fozzie. I'm serious about losing my kids, though. Hi, welcome back to Campy
Okay, you're
Cast.
done. Yeah, I notice you're like you seem to really like doing those big sketches when we do these Muppet ones. I guess
Yeah,
like
no,
these.
I know. I did it for the first one. I did it for the second. I thought I had to bring a third one home
I
to like
guess
loop it all together.
just like
Plug
reading
to the channel.
a Muppet
Yeah.
sketch.
Plug to the channel. Solid JJ. That's where I get all these Muppet things from. He's a very funny like meme chan creator. I like all this stuff a lot. But enough about him. Time to talk about us and the end of Evangelion of Muppets here.
Yeah,
As
kind
we are at
of.
the final of our
Yeah,
three Muppet episodes,
yeah.
we're
From
we're, we're
like
done here after today.
Yeah, I mean, we technically have not talked about every Muppet movie. I think there's like two Christmas ones that we didn't
Yeah,
talk about, but like it's not Christmas
they
anymore.
didn't really fit anywhere else to do exactly, and yeah, Christmas is long gone, so it's like
Maybe another
you can't
time,
really
but this
put
is
it.
like, based off of
Maybe.
I guess the most like interesting Muppet movies. Like
Yeah.
yeah, so
Mostly see, we were gonna just do all the theatrical ones, which is what we've been mostly sticking to. However, I lobbied to do two extra movies because I think it really represents another period in Muppet history. Because see, this podcast series, it's definitely been mainly about talking about the right, but I think in part I've been trying to kind of chronicle the Muppet history for each of the movies. Part one was all about the beginnings of them in like the 70s and 80s. Part two, we talked about the 90s era and how that kind of the fallout of Jim Henson dying and all that.
yeah.
And then we got the two different eras of Muppets left, which is the 2000s, which you could very easily call the Muppets Dark Age for reasons I'll get into, and in the 2010s, which was the comeback until it wasn't, and now we're here. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about it. We have like four different movies, and I feel like most people clicked on this video to hear the 2010 duology, since those are like the
Yeah.
most
You
famous
can't
talked
get those
about.
yet, boys. They're
Yeah,
going in release order.
yeah, yeah.
Ooh.
Let's go in release. I think now that I think about it, it probably makes more sense to go in release order, I guess. But
Hmm.
yeah,
We just gotta get them out of the way, kind of. But
if
yeah,
you want to see the Muppet movies that most people care and talk about, then just skip to the time codes. They're there for a reason. So
yeah, we keep them very, very usefully for people.
exactly,
Um,
so that way
but,
this can appeal to a
yeah,
lot of people. So yeah, we're talking about
yep,
two of the other TV direct to DVD Muppet movies. Then we're going to talk about the two theatrical outings, and then
yeah.
yeah. Um, yes, and that's the Muppet stuff. So I guess we'll just get right into it
Mhm.
with our first one, Kermit's Swamp Years,
All right. Yeah.
which is a prequel to the original Muppet movie that follows
Yeah.
Kermit's swamp years. You know, when
Mhm.
he was in the
Yeah.
swamp, I guess.
Hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
not
So
good.
nah,
It's
nah.
not a very
So
good movie.
for production on this one, see, I know it's compared to the other Muppet movies, there's a lot less known about why these were made
Yeah,
compared to
I
the
feel like
theatrical stuff. We
yeah,
don't
because
have much.
like I'm
Yeah.
genuinely curious
There,
to see
so
why some of these were made, like especially the Wizard
yeah.
of
Well,
Oz one.
yeah, yeah, definitely. History-wise, we don't have that much. However, from what I could gather, so this is 3 years after Muppets from Space, and as I kind of mentioned in the previous episode, Muppets from Space did not do very well at the box office, and it was
Yeah.
kind of like it set things back a lot because from there, Treasure Island was already doing less than Christmas Carol, and that's like the Muppets sort of gained back their relevance in like the early '90s, but by the late '90s, things just kind of fell apart. They weren't in that cultural touchstone anymore. It wasn't
hmm
even just they were bad on movies, on TV. The Muppets Tonight, which I think was around this era, it got canceled, and yeah, then Muppets were just kind of done for big stuff. So then we were just stuck with these direct to DVD and TV projects, which is where
Yeah, like
Kermit Swamp Years
Muppet
comes
Babies
into
and
play.
shit like that
Mm. Yeah,
for all the
I think you could tell
kids.
this one's. Yeah, yeah, I think you could tell that this one is a lot more cheaply made because if
Yeah.
you notice, Kermit is the only. See, Steve Whitmire is in this. He is the only Muppet performer you would like be used to who is actually in this movie. You got Frank Oz was gone by this point. I know he just voice acted for the other ones, but by this point he was completely done with the character, so he wasn't. And but even like obviously none of his characters could be in it because it's a prequel. But regardless, he was just kind of done. So yeah, there's kind of Kermit, and I think you could. I like this movie. I think it's fun and how stupid it is, but you can definitely there's a sense of cheapness throughout this
Yeah.
entire thing that I think radiates. It's like,
Um
why is this here? So
Why
odd.
is this a thing? First off, I'm not sure about this, but this feels like something that would like the premise of this would fit more with like a TV series or something that would followed around
Hmm.
Kermit Swamp. Like, even the title sounds like was this a scrap TV series? I wouldn't be surprised if it was.
I would not be surprised honestly because there's like a million Muppet pitches that never went anywhere. Um, See it more as like you could do like a special or something about it that I think maybe could be all
Yeah.
right, but in this form, I don't get it. Especially because like there's already Muppet Babies, so you're not like lacking young Kermit content, you know?
Yeah, and speaking
It's
of
like
that, I want to
I
get
don't.
into that, but it feels like this is like what I liked about the other Muppet movies. Is it feels like they're for families, you know, they're for the whole family.
Yeah.
I could see it's not like overly kiddish to the point where like adults would just roll their eyes at it. It's not overly like mature with its humor to the point where kids won't
Oh.
understand it. It's like a nice balance
Yeah.
between. There's something for everyone with the Muppets. That's why it was so
Yeah,
popular, you know.
exactly.
There was like something
That
like
was Jim
appealing
Henson's
for the
whole like.
family.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that was whole Jim Henson's initial statement because around the 70s or so, he was really pissed actually because he like helped do the puppetry stuff for Sesame Street, but because of Sesame Street, like that was a very like kid-oriented show. No diss to that because it was really helpful for children at the time.
hmm
But then there people were like they were like puppetry was stood as an inherently childish thing. Well, no, Jim Henson made the Muppets for everyone. It was inherently family dominated market. And
hmm
when he made the Muppet Show, that's what he proved because the Muppet Show, yeah, kids watched it, but like it was adults all tuned into it. And it was like one of the biggest shows of the 70s. But like this is definitely way more kid
It's like
oriented. I think you could
I
notice.
genuinely don't see anyone over the age of like 5 or 6 enjoying this because like
Mm.
yeah, it's like there's not much to this film that anyone that isn't like a young kid would get out of, unlike the other Muppet movies. Like there's just it's a very generic and simple kids film, and it is kind of dumb at parts, and there's some parts I just straight up
Yeah.
don't like about it. It's not a very
Mm.
good
I think
movie.
just
It's not a terrible
yeah, I
thing or anything. Like, it's not really
no
worth
no.
getting pissed over, but
If
it's
anything, I kind of liked it honestly. Like there's like something endearing about it, but still, it just kind of whack honestly, because I think a big problem with the movie is, see, like I mentioned, Kermit's the only guy we got, which is
yeah, only
fine,
Kermit this
but
time around.
also, hmm, which first of all, actually, before I get into what I was about to say, um, I realize this movie doesn't need to exist because I think giving Kermit an origin movie, one, kind of undermines things because in the 1979 movie, it's implied that Kermit leaving the swamp then is his first time leaving,
Yeah, that's what
which,
I
and then
noticed
also,
while watching this. I was like, this is kind of a
yeah,
weird concept. Also,
mhm,
I know this goes without saying with like a lot of these type of movies that like establish a big thing in the past, and like you can't help
mhm,
but wonder, well, how come we didn't see them in the other movies? But we always we
yeah,
always just established all these other characters. And let's be honest, this movie doesn't really teach us anything about Kermit other than he went on this
no,
one
no,
adventure once with characters that we don't know. Like
mm.
we got a
Nah, see, yeah, no, the weirder thing about that is at the end of the movie, I remember Kermit says something like, "Oh, I'm still friends with all these guys, and it's good, your first friends, there's nothing like them." Which I guess they try to have as a nice message, but also, that's not true. When have you seen these guys in any other piece of Muppet media? He's lying.
exactly. When did he get the
Is
time
that-
to become friends with them still? Also, did he
yeah,
just leave them? Like it doesn't make much sense
yeah.
at all.
What happened
Also,
to Blotch?
yeah,
Where is he?
yeah, yeah. And what happened to Croaker and Goggles? And these are the characters. So the plot of this movie is that Kermit is just like he's chilling with the swamp with two of his friends named Croaker and Goggles. Because Goggles' name is Goggles because he wears goggles, even though they look more like glasses. But yeah. Anyways, they end up Goggles gets kidnapped by a mysterious red car, and then he also was kidnapped along with Blotch, the toad. That's wait, no, is that
Yeah,
that's his
yeah.
name, right? That's his name. Yeah. So they
Blotch? Yeah, yeah, Blotch. It
the
was
big
Blotch, yeah.
toad guy who goes through a very complex character arc, which we'll get to in a bit. Um, so
Hmm.
he is
You bet.
carried to this pet. Their Goggles and Blotch are carried to this pet store, and then Kermit and Croaker and this dog that sounds like a Wakafina gotta go save them. Yeah.
Oh my God, she did actually. I
Yeah, she
didn't.
did. That was
I
like the
didn't even
first
think
thing
about
that
it.
came to mind. I was like, "What? Why is this voice sounds so familiar?" And I'm like, it's
Hmm.
not a Awakafina, but like it sounds like it kind of, if I'm being honest. And on maybe it's
Hmm.
because I've just seen her voice in so many like modern kids movies to the point where it's like, oh my god, I hear her voice everywhere. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
See, my whole thing is, I think, one problem is design wise. Kermit, see, Kermit's friends, I don't like them that much. I think they're personality wise, they're very like tepid. Goggles is supposed to be the nerd because he has goggles
yeah, and he's
on.
also kind of a pussy.
Blotch, yeah, yeah. Um, Blotch, I think
He's like the
he's
big
like the
mean
tough one.
bully. He's like the big mean bully.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
then he learns
yeah,
that Goggles like he forms a friendship with him, and then he's a good guy now. You know, he's part of the
yeah,
Kermit
yeah.
gang.
They're all very simple characters, but I think another thing I come to realize is their character designs aren't that good.
They're not.
Like they're
I
supposed to
find
be our
them
main
kind of
guys,
funny to
but
be honest. I find them kind of funny.
yeah. See, my whole thing is I think for making like main characters, kind of goes without saying, but if you have like a main character, I think you need to have something that really like stands out, and that's why I think Kermit is such an effective character design because
Yes,
it's very simple. Like the eyes with the dot line through them, the frog look, the smile, the little neck thing.
truly
It's a very
iconic.
simple design, but they can make some. It's an iconic design. There's a reason that Kermit was the Muppet that like lasted the longest out of all of Jim's other characters that died in like the 50s and 60s. But see, these other guys, they look more like background Muppets, if that makes sense. Like,
That's true.
they don't got
Also,
like that wow
yeah,
factor,
and also I
which is,
think Kermit's much more taller than them as well. Like I think they're just like in the
yeah,
middle of the phase
mm,
of tadpoles and like becoming bigger frogs based off of how the designs are.
yeah.
So,
Kermit's design made me kind of laugh in this because it's literally the same as an adult, but he's like a little shorter and he has
yeah,
bigger
that's
eyes.
funny.
It's so
Also, it's
silly.
implied in this movie that Kermit had a family. She had a mom that he just, I guess,
Yeah,
just
his
left
mom.
to go to Hollywood at some point.
Mm. I
Okay.
don't know, maybe his mom died between this and
That
now,
yeah, I don't know.
but
Also, I find this scene with Kermit and his mom really funny, solely because the camera is like aimed right at the back of Kermit's mom. It's like they don't want us to see her face for some reason.
yeah. Well, do we ever actually see her face? Because I don't think
No,
we've
like
ever
it's like
like
they don't.
saw
I
yeah.
have a feeling it was just like an actual spare Kermit puppet, and they were just trying to like face the camera in a way that would be like
Mm.
hiding
Oh
her
my god.
real face, just to
Because
show
I
us,
don't because
guys,
I think
guys,
part
it's
of
I
it,
swear
yeah.
it's Kermit's mom. It's just not. It's not just the used
Mm.
Kermit puppet.
Oh my god, low key, I can actually see that because I thought it was gonna be something like, oh, because they do that in shows sometimes where they like
Where they like
don't
block the
show the
parents' face.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they don't do like Peanuts does that,
Hmm.
other thing, that's the whole thing. But I honestly don't even think they did it intentionally like that. They just didn't want to show it.
Yeah, I
They're
found
like,
that
nah,
weirdly funny. I
uh,
don't know
that's
why.
fun. That actual scene is so weird though because Kermit comes to his mom for like emotional encouragement, and then she's like, nah, they can't do it. Sorry.
Yeah,
He's just
they
it's
can't
so
even show. The
unsupportive.
moment would have been better if we could see Kermit's mom's face, but instead it's filmed so awkwardly. And
Yeah, it's very awkwardly shot.
yeah.
It's like,
And I like how most of these Muppet films look visually. I love the puppetry. There's so much like cool visuals. Even the new Muppet movies look cool. So, yeah, like the direct to DVD ones like this and The Wizard of Oz have awful looking visuals, especially the Wizard of Oz one, which we'll get to later, but yeah, it's like
yeah.
hmm uh
Where
yeah,
was it?
so
Uh,
I guess yeah, there's just not much like to this movie from a story purpose
No,
point
no.
of view.
See, it's very simple, and I don't think it's inherently a problem because the other Muppet movies also have very simple stories. But in this one's case, it just like I feel like barely anything happens. Like,
Yeah, it's
the guy
very
gets
lame
kidnapped by this
journey.
guy who looks like I don't know if you've seen the Ernest movies, Anthony, but the guy looks like Ernest from
Oh,
those.
I
Like,
haven't seen those movies,
yeah.
but I've heard of
Yeah,
them.
well, yeah, but I swear to God, the guy looks exactly like the guy from those. But he gets Blotch or whatever. They get kidnapped. Kermit goes to get him. They get him. Then there's like a fucking movie theater thing where Statler and Waldorf showed up, and they're
Yeah,
like the
they're
only
like
other
the
like
only
recognizable Muppets.
non-Kermit Muppets that show. And I
Mhm.
want to talk about that
Which, by the
scene.
way,
It's like the
yeah,
scene
oh, that
where,
sounds
like, it's like a since there's a prequel, I guess it's the only scene in the movie that it feels like it shows like I guess why Kermit wanted to go to Hollywood, even though it appeared that he barely even like knew much about Hollywood in the original Muppet movie. So like, I guess
mm,
it's a weird scene and
no. Nah, the whole thing is, I don't think Kermit didn't even have the motivation to go to Hollywood. The
until
guy
the
who like
guy
sees
like
him
gave it to
playing,
him.
he like does it,
And in this
and he's
movie
very
we see him like
nonchalant about it.
kind of
But
develop that motivation when he's in the cinema. So that's like kind of a weird contradiction, I
it's like the
guess.
Fablemans,
Yeah, it's
you
like the
know,
Fablemans. I pointed that out in
long
my
as like
review. It's like the scene, like
it's
fucking Steven
artistic.
Spielberg, that hack. He ripped Kermit's swamp years off.
He did, he did. I don't know. That's the only part that like kind of made me laugh because it's a Statler and Waldorf joke, and those are like easy
Yeah,
gags.
when they're
They
just
make a
in the
joke about.
movie and we see their
Oh,
young
oh, oh,
versions and they
mm.
point it out.
I
It was
noticed
cute.
though, this movie has like a couple jokes that like kind of piss me off because it's like I don't there's if you have a media that's like a flashback episode or like a flashback movie or something, they'll often do jokes where it's like I can't imagine that and it's supposed to be funny because you as an audience know that this does happen later. And I think it's kind of a cheap way of telling comedy.
Yeah.
This movie does it a couple times where this is one part where Kermit gets into this thing with a pig, and he's like, "Gee, I hope I never see one of those again." And it's like, "Fuck off."
Haha, yeah.
Ha!
Just
It's
a
because of Miss
stupid.
Piggy. Ha ha. And I think they do that joke in the movie theater too, where it's like, Kermit's like, "You think I could be in a movie?" And they're like, "No, I can't imagine Kermit in
I'm
a
in a movie.
movie."
Yeah, that was so
Ha ha.
stupid.
Like, shut up.
It's
It's
such a
so
lame
obvious.
joke.
Yeah.
In the whole movie,
Mm.
like you're right, there isn't much that happens. Like it's a very lame
No, not
journey.
really.
Like there isn't much happening with the main characters. I don't remember a single thing about fucking Croker. I remember Goggles and his stupid like paranoia and him like having a bunch of. I remember him. I don't remember much about Croker other than he can hop. He can hop really high. That I
Yeah.
seriously like
Yeah.
that's it. And then there's also like the dog. The dog.
Mm.
That's it. The puppet of the
Yeah,
dog looks pretty
the dog
realistic
is
though,
weird because
but
I
still.
was gonna mention that. See, there's this one part where a dog shows up, but he can't talk, and it's weird because it's kind of an implied rule of the Muppet universe. If you're an animal, you're a Muppet, and if you're a Muppet, you can talk, right?
Mhm.
Except there's a dog that doesn't talk in this movie, and the dog that does doesn't look like Rolf. It's
Yeah.
like separate. I noticed that because it was very weird. Like, oh,
Yeah, and also the dog
what
sounds
a
like Aquafina, like I said.
yeah, yeah. She's like fine. I don't know. I don't know why she's there
Yeah, she
on
doesn't
like the
add much
journey
other
and
than just
everything.
I guess she does take them to the other location, but that's it. But like who
Mm.
cares about this? I really think this was just shat out just for little kids. I don't see anyone other than little kids getting
No.
anything out of this because there's not much to this movie at all. I don't know. There's like the
Yeah,
villain. You want
no,
to talk
not
about
really.
the villain character?
Oh my, okay. See,
He's
the villain thing, I found that so weird because most of this movie is very like in the light. It's supposed to be for young kids, and you get to like the classroom scenes, and they have this like flashback with the villain where he tried dissecting a frog,
and then he just
but then
got
the frog
permanently
talked to him.
trauma. That's
He's
such a
like,
that
yeah, yeah,
scene
yeah.
is so funny, the fucking flashback scene. Not only because
Mm,
the cinematography is like it's a fucking horror movie, but also it's
yeah.
funny because of how bad the kid acting is for the main for the kid. It's such a
Mm.
stupid fucking scene. And then
Mm.
and that's what
The
makes the
part where he
fucking
talks
villain
to the
redeemed.
yeah, the part where he talks to the frog is so funny because he just like the frog just says like stop. It's something so abrupt like that, and it's like what,
I also
what?
just like how also it's so stupid. This trope is so dumb in movies, but then everyone is all like cheering when the villain is trying to like dissect the frog, and he's getting this huge big mileage out of it. Like he has big beef with these frogs, I guess. But I don't know. I guess
Mhm.
I'm kind of confused by it. So like I guess he wants to kill frogs now because he was made fun of for
Mhm.
talking to one.
For
I
not doing
guess.
it,
I
and also
it's kind of
and it's
stupid.
weird because okay, the weird thing is there's that one frog that tells him to like stop or whatever, but it's implied this is a science class where everyone is dissecting frog. Which first of all,
Yeah.
I always see that in media. Are there any actual science classes where you dissect animals? Because I've never seen it actually happen. I always just see it in media, but it's never like a real thing. But I don't. Second of all, um, it's implied that it's a whole class thing. So it's like how come none of the other frogs talked?
Yeah,
Why did this one specifically speak up to this one kid? Like, what are you
yeah, I
doing?
don't know. It's
Is it?
stupid, but yeah, biology. I think in like biology classes and just science classes like
Mm,
that. I think that's like a common thing with frog dissection. So,
mm.
yeah. Um, as for it, yeah, it's like a stupid fucking scene and moment, and also like, and then there's like, and then there's like all the kids cheering, "Let the frogs go! Let the frog!" It's such a fucking stupid
Yeah,
scene.
yeah.
Everyone's like, and then the high school teacher just lets them go, and then he's like starts crying because he's just so happy that he isn't a crazy person and frogs could really talk, and then the movie just
Yeah.
kind of ends like that.
It's so silly. I just think tonally from this movie, which by the way, this movie's rated G. If you know you, it's kind of hard to get a G because most things get a PG for no reason now. But that
Mm.
it really shows this movie like tame that it got
Yeah,
a G.
that's
But
how
like
like
regardless,
kiddish
it's like
and harmless this little film is to the point
yeah,
where like,
which I don't
yeah,
know. It feels like a Flanderization, I guess, of like the Muppets because yeah, it's easy to go, oh, the Muppets, they're like they all have like they're just like bright, colorful little things for children. But no, like I mentioned, the Muppets were like a big thing for everyone. Everyone fucking loved the Muppets. Why else do you think they get so many celebrities in Muppet
yeah.
movies? Because they love the characters. And it's
Hmm.
like, oh, it's kind of weird, and also weirder when they do some jokes. You need like previous context for. I don't know if you remember this, Anthony, but this is one part in the movie where then Kermit is like one of the frogs is like I forget which one. They're walking by someone's house, and he's like he like, kind of walks up, and then like the frogs will walk away or whatever after the kid does something, and they pan over to his mailbox, and the mailbox says Henson on it.
Oh my
The kid's
God,
like scratching his
that
head,
thing.
and
So like that's like supposed to be a nice little like tribute thing to Jim Henson, but I have a feeling Jim Henson wouldn't like this movie. So
Oh, I don't think he would because he was always so adamant on making the Muppets a thing for like
for
everyone.
all
He had this
ages.
like
That's what I like
blatant
and
kiddie
respect
shit.
him in terms of that
Mm,
desire. That's why I
Yeah,
like a
I
lot of the
always
Muppet
like.
movies.
That's why I always respected Jim Henson because he was always wanted a guy to make like general entertainment, but also he would
Yeah.
always want to keep moving forward. As with stuff, and I don't know, it seems like a retread of like a bunch of other Muppet stuff, just a general trip to go somewhere else and do his whole thing. I don't know. For
Yeah.
me, it felt very like redundant, a lot of it, and I don't even know what that scene's implying. Is what it's trying to say that this guy grows up to be
Yeah,
Jim
in the fucking
Henson?
context of the
Is this
movie, it
Jim?
makes absolutely no sense. Like, I
And I think
understand the
it's
joke, but like,
yeah,
if someone who doesn't know who Jim Henson is, like, what are they gonna get out of that?
yeah, exactly, and that's the whole thing. This movie's targeted towards 5-year-olds. They're not gonna know the
Five-year-olds, I don't
history
think
of
are
the
gonna know
Muppets.
the creator who created the Muppets. You know, like,
Yeah, yeah. It's, that's the whole thing. And also I the part is so funny to me because they don't even try to be like subtle with it, which is weird. Because at first I thought it was gonna be like, oh, that's on the mailbox, but don't call attention to it. And then after he walks away, there's like they do a zoom up shot of the mailbox for like a good couple seconds. It's like fuck, god damn it. They like draw
yeah, it's
specific
so
attention
weird.
to the Henson mailbox, and it's like, what? You know, what are you
Yeah,
doing?
it's very weird.
It
It's a
just
very
felt weird.
weird moment. I forgot to. I was gonna bring that up, but yeah. Um,
Mm,
In
yeah.
terms of other things, one thing I also don't like about this movie, this is like a small thing, but I noticed like during the bloopers this film has. Yeah, this film has like one of those
Yeah.
has like bloopers at the
Yeah, it does
end.
after the credits and they do
I
bloopers.
also one thing I
Um,
don't like is I don't like how they play like this dumb rock cover of Rainbow Connection over it, and I'm like,
mm,
ugh,
I,
really?
I noticed that. For me,
I
I
thought
thought
that was
it's stupid
annoying, to
because
be
one, it
honest.
sounds like shit, and two, I think and a Rainbow Connection is an oddly beautiful song since it's very
Yes.
like very hopeful and like slow and upbeat with all these
It's
big
it
musical
makes the Muppet
percussions.
movie like really settles you into the what the movie's gonna be
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
It's a
So the
beautiful
fact that it
opening.
starts out so like oddly like upbeat. It feels like it's kind of missing the point of
Exactly.
what, like, well, not
That's
upbeat.
why I
It
was
misses the
annoyed
point
by
of what I
it.
think Rainbow Connection is. Because it, like, right, I don't know much about music theory because I'm not, like, a big music guy, but
Yeah, same.
Rainbow Connection as a song has a very, like, purposeful build-up where it starts out slow. Why are there so many songs about rainbows? And then, like, and then it starts building up to the end where it's like, someday we'll find it. And it's like, these big sweeping numbers after the probably magic. But if you listen to that cover, it goes so like fast. I think it kind of misses
Yeah,
the
that
whole
like
thing, you know?
ruins the
Like,
buildup and just the like it
yeah.
just ruins a lot of the song for me. And that's one of the
Hmm.
things I was annoyed by in this movie. And
Hmm.
in terms of yeah, I don't know. I don't know. There's also like some obvious CG, like with this annoying bug that's in the opening or
Yeah,
like
I noticed he's
fly.
so out of place. It's like, what are
Yeah,
you
I think they
doing?
point that out in the bloopers, but like unlike other instances of Muppet self-awareness, this is like making fun of something that's like actually bad for the movie instead of just like pointing something
Yeah.
out. You know, it
Hmm.
feels dumb, you know, like having this obvious looking CG that feels incredibly out of place compared to all the other puppets. And I don't really care if they point it out in the bloopers, you know, it like doesn't change anything, but
Hmm.
still. In terms of other things to bring up, still, despite how lame this movie is from like in a lot of ways, there's just still something about it to me that's just so funny. Just by looking at the
Mm.
fucking poster, I
I
just like start laughing. Like, look at the fucking
I just
crocodile. Look at the faces. The fucking the fucking frogs
y-
are made. It looks so dumb. I love it.
yeah, I find this and the Wizard of Oz, which we'll talk about in like a bit. I find both of them very fascinating movies because like it's this weird Muppet era where no one quite knew what to do with it because like, oh, well, it's the Muppets, isn't an iconic franchise. They gotta
Yeah.
like keep it going. But they didn't really know what to do. I think this is like literally maybe the last big Muppet thing before the Disney purchase. So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
certainly certainly a way to end the legacy, I guess. But I don't know. It's just such an odd duck that I can't help but be fascinated. And as much as we're ragging on, I kind of enjoyed watching it because it's just
I
such a
had there were, I don't
odd
know, like I didn't hate
thing.
it. I found
Yeah.
some moments kind of funny. This get a little worse the more I think about it, but like it's, I don't know,
Eh.
there was something like funny to me about just how, I don't know, I just found some of the scenes with Goggles and fucking uh uh, Blotch, the big
Yeah,
toad guy,
Blotch.
kind of
They
funny.
have such stupid names, by
The
the way.
names are so stupid.
Goggles. You name a kid
Goggles,
that has glasses, goggles.
that's
That's
so stupid.
terrible.
Also, I found Goggles just really funny as a character. He just like moves around. He's basically just like a very paranoid and scared individual.
I noticed his voice is very like silly. I
Yeah,
recognize it
his
because
voice is, yeah.
I looked the guy up because I wanted to know where I recognized him from. He's not that big, but I noticed he's been in like other like he's in another Sesame Street project. And there's one Sesame Street Christmas special I watched a lot when I was a kid, so I recognize that. But he has a very like he has like this very like you know what I mean, the very nerd
Mhm.
sounding voice that made him kind of
Yeah,
funny. Like I
yeah,
can't
that's
do
kind
it,
of
but you know
funny.
the thing. It's
Yeah.
funny. Uh,
I don't know. I also love the character of Roy, who appears in a single fucking scene. And I remember
oh
I
my
was
God,
in like a
Roy.
VC with like some people in like the Citizens House Discord server, and then we all were just like talking about this movie randomly, and then Hal was like talking about this character named Roy, who is in a single scene in this movie. And it's fucking design. I don't know, just the way there's just something that just makes me
Mm.
laugh about him. And I wasn't the only
Yeah,
one
I
who just
remember I
started
was reading
laughing for
Hal's
no
review
reason.
earlier, and let me pull it up. It was so funny. He said something like, "I don't." Okay, let me quote. This is so funny. I don't know if I can fully explain why, but the character of Roy leaves me in a fit of laughter every time I see him. I looked up a picture on Google Images of Roy's Kermit Swamp Ears, and I burst out laughing seeing him.
He's like
like,
in one scene in the entire fucking movie, and it was I don't know why. Just look at his face. He's like, look how he just looks so dumb. And just the scene, he's like, "Hello, I'm Roy. Welcome to this." I forgot the exact line, but like he just welcomes Blotch, and then Blotch is about to beat the epic shit out of it. It's such a funny scene for me, and just like seeing
oh my God,
stuff like that. I don't know. There's just something about this movie, just how
mm,
like some of these new puppets look, and
mm.
just like just the fucking ending being so stupid. There's just something funny about this movie, just by the way it like everything is done, just by looking at the fucking post. It's a funny movie for no reason. And
And
like
this laugh is like contagious. I looked at him and I like
yeah, I just
fucking
can't bring
wheezed.
myself
What
to
is up
hate
with
it for some
Roy?
reason. And I feel like it's worth like laughing over. Like I get some good laughs out of certain scenes, and it's just a funny movie in some way, and I can't really describe why because
It
I
is.
don't,
It is.
because it's like I don't even think I enjoy what happens in the movie. I just think I laugh at random stuff in it for no reason because it just has such a weird tone to it. So, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
funnily stupid movie, but I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to wrap it up now because I feel like
Yeah, I
we've
think I've
got
said
like
everything I
a lot into
wanted
it.
to say, but yeah, I don't know. Not much
Yeah.
really happens in this
Yeah.
movie. They did mention the Wizard of Oz at some point, which foreshadowed the next movie we're talking about. So,
Whoa. That's
yeah,
crazy.
that
But
was
anyway,
that's it.
I would say I would give Kermit Swamp Years a 4 out of 10. I don't know why I said that like YMS, but yeah,
Yeah, I'd also give it a four
4.
out of ten. It's like I've seen there's far worse movies out there. If I had like a kid that was babysitting or something like that, I'd probably and he wanted to watch this
Mhm.
specific movie for some inexplicable reason, then I guess I'd let him put it on
Mhm.
because it's like a harmless little film.
Yeah.
I just feel like I don't know. I just don't really understand why this was made, other than the Muppets were desperate at this point and didn't know what to do
Mhm.
because their legacy was like dying down a bit. So they just made this, and it wasn't
Mhm.
very good. But yeah, anyways,
Mhm.
speaking of
Yeah.
not very good Muppet movies, I guess we'll get onto the Wizard of Oz one.
All
The
right.
Muppets
So
Wizard
the
of
Muppet
Oz.
Wizard of Oz. So a little bit. I have like brief historical context. So it's not that big. But see, I mentioned in the previous segment. After in 2004, Disney bought the Muppets. Bah,
Hmm.
bah. Which is kind of sad because since buying them, they've treated them very mixed. So that it's
Yeah.
kind of sucks. But point is, they own the Muppets now. And after this, they tried getting them a little back into the limelight. You know, they made a couple talk show appearances as the Muppets were known to do. But notably, after this buyout, a new film called The Muppets Wizard of Oz was announced by the Jim Henson Company, and got signed on to do. This was the last to be the produced by the Jim Henson Company specifically because they did that, but I think Disney would like produce the upcoming Muppet films, so it's like they owned it, but like yeah, that's a whole thing. You get it. So then they started making it, and it came out. We really don't know much other than that, other than I guess fame. Ashanti, I guess is her name, and how she's credited. She got the role of Dorothy, and I guess to clear some stuff up, I think she was supposed to be like a famous singer from the time. That's why
Yeah.
she got the part. Which is because I didn't recognize her, but I guess it was from the time. I guess I don't know. Then the movie happened, which I fuck. It's weird. There are so many cuts of this movie. It's weird. There's like a Letterbox says it's like 87 minutes, but you go to pull this up to watch it, and it's like 40 something,
Yeah,
an
and I
hour
kind
40.
of feel
Okay,
like
that's
that tainted my experience because I was like, I was going to watch this film, and Letterboxd said it was 87. All right, this is a pretty short movie. But then I pull up, and then it says, wait, why is this an hour and 40 minutes? I'm like, oh gosh.
yeah, that happened to me too. I was like, why is this
Uh,
longer than I
yeah, and then
remembered
I
it
watched
being?
it, and then I'm
Like
like,
what?
okay, this isn't very good at all. And I feel like I would have found this
Uh-huh.
film more funny if I didn't watch this extended cut version.
Mm. I
Maybe
found this
it's, I don't
movie
know.
very funny, but
I
that's a
find parts
me
of this
thing.
movie just so fascinating with it because it's like such a
If you thought
bizarre movie.
Swamp Year was bizarre, and this goes like another level with it. It
Yeah,
is
it's an
such a fucking
incredibly
weird
weirdly
experience.
paced and weirdly toned film, and
Hmm.
it's a parody of Wizard of Oz. You know the Wizard of
Yeah,
Oz story. You know
yeah.
Dorothy, a
It's
magic
kind of
world,
funny we're talking
throwback,
about
scarecrow,
this
stuff
before
like that.
we like. Yeah, it's kind of funny we talk about this before we talk about the 39 movie, which is like one of the best movies, and there's fucking this. But
Yeah,
yeah, um, I think the big thing is for a Wizard of Oz adaptation, they really didn't do it that well. Because here's the thing:
yeah,
with something like a Christmas Carol, I think it was cool to be like, "Ooh, which Muppet's gonna be which?" And in that, as I mentioned in that episode, they picked them all very naturally. Kermit very much fits the Bob Cratchit type. They do some
yeah,
pun ones like Fozzie as Fuzzywig, and it's funny.
yeah,
And like other characters, they slide in naturally. Piggy's Cratchit's wife. Gonzo is weird being the narrator, but his inflections oddly like fit,
hmm,
and despite the whole joke of it, and there's all that. And point is, it all fits. Whereas here, I think there are some horrible miscastings with what character
yeah.
they chose to be what.
I
I
thought
don't
it
know
was
about you,
weird,
because
especially Kermit,
yeah,
specifically Kermit as the Scarecrow didn't make sense to me at all.
yeah, does it make sense? Because for Kermit, all of them don't make sense. Because Kermit, he is chosen to be the Scarecrow, who is stated he needs to find the brain. When Kermit is very famously the Muppets, because like he's the voice of reason, right? So it didn't make sense. Like he famously is the one in that position that he's the one who like want brains. It doesn't to me that didn't make any sense. And the
Yeah,
other ones
it's
aren't
weird.
even like the other ones. It doesn't fit either because Gonzo, he's the one who's like he needs a heart. When famously he rizzes up this chicken a lot, you know. Like
Yeah,
he's more romantically in touch than most of the Muppets. That didn't make sense. And Fozzie, he was the one who wants courage. But if anything, Fozzie has more courage than most of the Muppets because he's always the one very confident in putting out there his like stupid jokes, even if people aren't receptive to it.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
it's weird. Like those are the main parts of like the Muppet personalities, and none of them match their Wizard of Oz counterparts. It's kind of sad.
Yeah,
Like
it's
none
an
of
I
them.
don't even really think they've thought that much in terms of like making sure the Muppets even fit fit these roles. I just think like, yeah, let's just do whatever with them. I don't think they care that much about it. So like,
Mhm.
yeah, and then this is just the whole Wizard of Oz parody, except Dorothy wants to be a singer in this, and the opening is filmed like a 2000s music video. And getting
It
into that
is,
more, it
yeah.
feels like there's a lot of instances in this movie where it feels like it's trying to be like, current and hip and more edgy with
It
some
is.
of the jokes, because there is a lot of this movie is weirdly horny with a lot of its jokes. Like they
Yeah.
say the word sexy way more than a Muppet movie ever should. Like,
This is part where there's all that which weirded me out. Most of it comes from Pepe for
yeah.
some reason,
And
who
to
he
be
plays
honest,
Toto for some reason,
I don't think I
which pisses
like
me off,
Pepe
by the
very
way.
much as a Muppet.
Uh,
Like, he's never, like, I don't think I
he's
like
kind
him
of a
very
lower
much.
tier Muppet, to be honest. I'm
Yeah.
not huge on him. Uh, mm, the weird thing with him in this though is, see, he's the one who's Toto,
For
which by the
some
way pisses
reason.
me
I
off
don't know
because,
why. That's a weird
which
decision.
annoys me because like they have dogs, just make it Rolf or
Yeah, I
something,
like Rolf. I
you
think it would
know?
have been funny to give him more of the spotlight here instead
He's
of.
very casual and he isn't meant to be the main character of a lot of Muppet projects. I think it would have been cool if he got to be someone, but I guess he didn't really do anything in this. No, and
Yeah.
I don't know, Pepe. A lot of his jokes are just weird. In this is one part where I remember this. He touches Gonzo's like
Oh my
nipples
god,
or
and
something,
then he just like,
and then
and
he
then he
runs
says that
out.
he feels dirty. What the? He feels dirty. It's so weird. Like, who is this movie really for? Because if it has
I don't
jokes
know.
like this, then kids aren't gonna understand them. They're gonna be weirded out, and adults would just find this shit weird and dumb and overly kiddie. So like,
I think the
who is
teens
this
this is
for?
marketing it towards because of all like the pop
The
music stuff.
pop
I don't think they'd
music. They're
like it
trying to be.
either.
It
So
feels like
just
at
like
this right, since the Muppets were in their flop era, they tried to be current and new with some of the with this movie's like humor, and it just fails.
yeah, it really falls flat on its face in a lot of aspects. I would say just not
Yeah, it just
not
doesn't
really
just doesn't
working
work.
at
It can't
all.
really like Kermit Swamp Years. Kermit Swamp Years had like one song, and I think it was like the pet thing. It was, I don't know. There's like
Mm,
a pet song. This one
mm,
had some songs, but I don't remember any of them, even though I just watched this movie today. So like, yeah,
mm.
it's just
It's it's horribly sad because the movie is literally about a musician who wants to like play and go on these big shows. And you can't even remember the fucking music. And that like I don't know. I feel like a Wizard of Oz thing is sort of required to have good music because the original 1939 movie has one of my favorite like movie soundtracks of all time. All those like little bits. So
yeah.
contrastly, just kind of, and even especially, it's a Muppet movie, which are also known for really good music. So I feel like it's kind of weird it doesn't. Like you had these two golden things, and yet nothing good came out of it. It just that's
Yeah.
what's so weird. I feel like a movie in this style could have worked well because Christmas Carol is nothing than just subbing in a classic
Yeah,
story
same with
with a
Muppet's
lot of
Treasure
different
Island, which I
elements.
don't like as
Yeah,
much as Christmas Carol, but it still
yeah.
like
I'm not even
works
like that
well.
huge on Treasure Island, but like it's still a solid movie at the end of the day. But
Yeah.
here it's like, yeah, it really is that bad. I just kind of a lot of the decisions made, like joke telling wise, a lot of it is like very horny, yeah, which I think
Yeah, it does
is
not
very
fit for the
noticeable.
Muppets. Like,
No, no.
I don't know, like it's
Mm.
fine. Like the most uncomfortable scene in this movie is the scene where the Wizard of Oz turns into just a bunch of random shit, and then like calls each of the the Scarecrow, the fucking the Tin Man, the Lion, one by one,
Yeah.
and then one of them turns into like this overly sexualized woman that looks like it's a start of some weird ass porno, and then all of a sudden
Mm.
she turns into a
Which, by the way, the
chicken,
CGI
and
is
Gonzo
fucking
gets oh my
terrible,
god,
by the
the
way.
CG is a fucking
It's
mess.
so
It looks
bad.
like a PS2 cutscene, and I haven't even played a PS2
Literally,
game.
though,
It
literally.
looks so much
It's
like
like,
it. It's awful. Yeah, and
mhm.
it's such a weird fucking scene that the woman turns into a chicken, that Gonzo gets horny even though he's incapable of feeling love because he has a heart. It doesn't make any fucking I guess I mean I get now that I think about it, that moment's like integral to the plot now because that's a moment where Gonzo felt love. Oh no. What the fuck?
Well, no, because he had love all along.
Yeah, that was
Just
like
for
the
that
point
fucking
at the end. And I
CGI
find it weird
chicken.
that in this
But
movie, for some reason, it's Dorothy who's like the one who tells them this instead of the wizard, like in the
well, yeah,
original
because
movie.
the wizard is like the one who's supposed to like be like, oh, don't you see,
Yeah,
Dorothy?
but then Dorothy
You
just
had all
randomly
along.
figures
And
out,
like
like, you know
gives
what?
him
We
a little
don't
bit.
need this stuff. She just randomly decides that in this movie for some reason.
Mm.
Like,
The
instead of
structure of
something, it
like
doesn't
the
make no
whole
sense.
ending is very weird how they do it because
Yeah, especially compared to
so
the
they
real
they do the
version.
whole thing where they stop the Wicked Witch, which by the way that's a really weird scene the way they like Miss Piggy dissolves is an odd
Yeah, and then
effect
it
and all
turns
that.
into this like
What is
soft S puppet, and then she starts
mhm,
actually melting.
yeah.
It's weird.
Then I know they do the which okay I kind of like it but I also don't the way they do it where they do this weird like in every Wizard of Oz story, they have the whole thing where they actually see the the Grand Wizard of Oz and just kind of some guy. And in this, they interpret that by them just walking on like an empty film set, and they're
Yeah,
just like, "What?" It's very weird, but I don't know. I kind of liked it. But then from there they go to this thing where oh I can't make you this but I'll make you famous and she like Dorothy goes on like the Oz TV channel or something odd like that and they do a whole thing there and then she's like oh man well I just didn't need any of this after all and it's like
yeah,
they took one extra step there that I don't think they needed maybe it's what this damn extended
yeah.
cut
I
did
still find it
just add all that in
stupid
there.
how Dorothy isn't even trying to get home in this one. She just wants to be a pop star because
Yeah, yeah. Mm.
it,
I think it really lessens the emotional core of this one. I think another core thing about the Wizard of Oz story that works is they set up that Dorothy has troubles with her current life, and that makes you go, oh, yeah, she would want to leave. The 1939 one does this very well because she's stuck on this farm with like yeah, there are nice people there, but she's not overly connected to anybody. And Mrs. Gulch is a huge bitch. They got all that. And this we don't really see why Dorothy has a bad situation currently. Is
she's kind
I
of
don't know.
unlikable in this one, if I'm being
Yeah,
honest.
honestly, Dorothy's a dick, and I think that's like mm, that's a problem because I think it. See, my main Wizard of Oz framework is the 39 movie. I'm gonna pull that up a couple of because I really like that movie. But there they do like I said they do a good job of gaining sympathy and like she's very likable in that movie for that reason. It's like they have the whole thing is oh they might lose Toto and all that. So you get like when she does leave, it's like why that would be something like neat for her to be in this whole new land. But
Mm,
also she loves her like family and they established that. So that's why it's
yes.
triumphant when she comes back home. But here you don't really get either extremes. You don't fucking know why she doesn't like it other than you won't let me become a pop star, which by the way she gets at the end. She doesn't really even learn anything, you know?
Hmm.
It's
Another
like
thing I thought was weird is that in the original Wizard of Oz story, the things are all based off of things that Dorothy has seen, I guess, in person. So
yeah.
yeah, in this movie, they're all Muppets, I guess, but like, I don't really know why. I mean, I know in this movie she's a pop star who wants
Hmm.
to like join the Muppets, so I guess I can understand why she
Well,
might know who like
I don't know.
Fozzie and Gonzo are, but like at the same time, wouldn't we
Well, see, I
like,
don't know. They try to do this because they have the Muppets thing show up at the beginning. But
yeah,
personally, the only Muppets I see is like Kermit, I think Pepe, and a couple others. Not like even for like an extended period of time. But I
yeah,
don't know. See, the original Wizard of Oz, I think that does it very naturally because it's cool. You get to see all the people at the beginning, and they see their like faces on other people. Because Mrs. Gulch is the Wicked Witch of the West, and the Scarecrow, Lion, and Tin Man. they're all the farmers are on the farm. That's cool. But here, like Dorothy wouldn't have even seen most of these people, nor even some of them there. It's like I
Yeah,
don't
so
know.
it's like
The
bizarre.
Wizard of Oz is it for a cool thing for how it's foreshadows the dream ending. This I don't think is as neat. It's like oh,
Yeah, and
that's
it's also like
lame.
paced weirdly, I guess, because man, I don't know if I fully actually. Yeah, but apparently, like before they get their like wishes granted, I guess they like have to go. They I don't know. It's a very weirdly paced compared to the original as well, because like after they have already arrived to Oz, we're like 40 minutes in. I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen the rest of the way? And then they decide
Mm.
that like after they get into the thing, then they gotta go visit the witch and get the eye. It's a weird fucking interpretation of the story that I thought was off. Like, why would you? Why? Like, it's bizarre. It's a weird
Yeah,
fucking movie.
I don't know. Like again, for like the Wizard of Oz is like a very iconic story, and there's like a bunch of different versions of it. So you kind of have to put your own little spin on it. But I think I don't know. It's weird the way they did it with the Muppet one is just kind of a lot of the turns they make. I just think are weird. Like all the weird like I mentioned a lot of the sexual humor, but one other thing I think I like even less than that is there are so many just pop culture name drops and references. And then it makes yes, the Muppets are a franchise inherently built on pop culture. The Muppet Show is something where they interviewed celebrities weekly. Not interview, they had celebrity guests on each week. It was like a whole thing. But the thing about those is you don't need to know who the celebrity is to
Yes.
like it. Like I guess an example, Mel Brooks is in the 1979 movie, but you don't need to know the context of Mel Brooks's career to like him. But it's like there's the thing. But in Pepe, they make references to stuff where it's like when they get to Oz, he says something like, fellas, make sure to set up Dark Side of the Moon now." Which I don't know if you got that joke, Anthony. The joke
I didn't
there
even
is
get
that
it.
but the joke there is it's like an urban legend that if you sync up the album Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon with Wizard of Oz, they like match in certain instances.
What
So
kid
that's what that
watching this
joke
is
is
gonna
referred.
understand that joke?
Yeah, and it's like an internet urban legend. So it's
That
like,
I
how
didn't
would
even know
someone
that.
know
Like
that?
what? And
And
also, the
yeah, and then
fucking Quentin Tarantino cameo in this film that randomly
oh my
happened.
god, that part is so weird.
That part
I
is
will say,
funny to me. I found
Quentin,
that funny to me, but like no kid is
yeah,
gonna understand this
no one
Quentin
knows who Quentin
Tarantino joke.
Tarantino is. And
Yeah,
like
I think it's a
I will
funny
give credit.
joke, kind of, but
I will give credit. Quentin oddly matches the energy of like the Muppets because of how like insane he acts. So I'll give him that. But still, just such an
yeah.
odd little
It
joke to
is an
do.
odd joke,
And
but I don't know. I find it kind of funny, even though it doesn't make
mhm.
sense in the
Yeah.
context
Also,
of the movie.
yeah. Also, on top of that, with the pop culture stuff, I noted this. There's one bit where they like name drop like Michael Eisner, and he says, "You're not gonna get this easy" or something. And the whole joke there is that Michael Eisner used to like own Disney, and it's a joke about the Disney Muppet deal. And it's
Oh, I
like
don't actually remember that. I
I
think I
find that
started
funny,
to
but you don't know.
zone out at
Yeah,
this
and I
point.
find that funny, but it's like you're not gonna remember who Michael Eisner is.
Mm,
Like,
yeah.
it just it seems so silly to me because an average kid isn't gonna get that.
Yeah, but I feel
Also, I
like
just
yeah,
another thing.
well, never mind. It's like
Hmm.
with other movies when it comes to Muppet jokes, there are like pop culture references, but they're like implemented in a way that like could just that like appeals to a lot of people, just like more than just
Yeah,
these
exactly.
specific celebrity jokes to people that kids just the things that kids would never understand, which it feels like that this film is gonna like pander to that like type of audience, but I just
It's
genuinely
very
don't know what
pandering.
this
Yeah,
movie was for. What was this? What is this movie for? That's what I'm wondering.
it's hard for me to even decode
I
it.
can't even say I
Like,
hate it. I probably would have disliked it less if I didn't watch the extended version, like I said. But like, it's just kind of lame. I don't even have much to say about it other than specific weird ass moments and jokes, I guess.
yeah,
Like Peppy being
on a
horny. Like
yeah,
I don't know.
on a
It's like his one character trait. I say he was like in
it is.
that
Yeah,
haunted mansion special thing that we're not counting since
yeah,
that's like one of the only things that Disney has even made with the
yeah.
thing. But
I
like,
forget if I mentioned this in the last one, but Pepe as a character makes me kind of mad because he kind of replaced Rizzo, and I
yeah,
like Rizzo way more. It used to always
same.
be Gonzo and Rizzo, but now it's Gonzo and Pepe, and it's like, well, what about Rizzo? I love Rizzo. He's a
Yeah.
fun little guy. Silly little rat. I guess he's gone now,
Oh well.
tragically. Oh yeah. Also, mm, there's. I was looking over my notes because I took some like commentary on this, and one of the pop culture name drops is Pepe mentions "Girls Gone Wild" in his
Oh
first
yeah.
thing, and if you don't know what "Girls Gone Wild" is, that's like a half porn thing.
What?
Not even a joke, because the
I
whole
didn't
thing,
even know that.
like, yeah, and so it's like, well, this is a
It's just
kids
so
movie.
inappropriate for a fucking kids movie. What is this movie?
Literally,
It's so
literally.
bizarre,
It's like a
man.
whole thing where they would like film girls and stuff, and they'd be like, it's inherently sexual in
Why is
nature.
this
So it's
movie?
like,
This
what?
movie is so sex.
What?
This movie is so horny for no reason, and it makes no sense. And it's like, I don't know. Those are the main jokes I remember from this movie. I think I remember one thing I found kind of
Yeah.
funny was the scene where they were crossing the bridge, and then like Statler and Waldorf were like these monsters who kept like making fun of Fozzie as he
Oh
slowly
yeah, no,
crosses.
it's
I
like
thought that
it's
was kind
funny.
of
Instead
funny.
of just being like traditional monsters, they like the joke is that they're like their criticism is what scares them. I think
Yeah,
that's
that
kind
was
of
funny.
funny.
That was cute. I
But
like that. That was like
mm,
one of the only
yeah.
scenes I liked in this movie. I also thought it
Mm.
was like um what was I gonna say? I also thought it was lame that the poppy field from the original Wizard of Oz in this movie is just replaced with a club. I thought that was very stupid and not funny.
Yeah, I remember that. Don't they just do it like a yeah? Is that the part where the Doctor Teeth and Electric Mayhem show up, or am I mixing this up with something
I
else?
don't know.
No, there's a
I know
part with them.
I know
And
the band that band shows up in a
they
couple
know
of
they do a
things.
part with that, and it's very like unnatural too.
Yeah.
Where they like cut to them, and it's like, I don't know, weird.
Yeah, it's not
This
a
movie is very, very not well done.
Yeah, it kind of
I'd
gets.
have to
It's
say.
probably my least favorite Muppet movie. I think I like Kermit Swamp Years a bit more.
I do too. I think this is a lot worse. See, they're both fours for me, but this is like a much lower four than that one is.
Yeah, same.
Like
It gets
really
worse the
bad.
more. It's like it's not infuriatingly terrible, but it's just like bizarre, and I just didn't get much
Yeah.
out of
I think again that
what this film
fascination
was
it
doing.
did lead me to like enjoying it, but also it's like ugh.
I don't
Like
know.
there's some parts that are laughably bad. Like this is one part where Miss Piggy, who plays the Wicked Witch, she like sends some henchmen off to like do something, and they're riding on these motorcycles. But this green screen is so bad.
Oh my
Like
god,
if you
yeah.
can remember, it's
Yeah, it makes
so
some funny
terrible.
moments with like the visuals and just it's fascinating in some way, and I can't like I don't
Mm,
know. There's worse. I've seen worse, honestly. Like it's just like a
mm,
strange movie that I'm just like unsure what it's for. Like at least Kermit Swamp Years, I could see like a child getting something out of it. But this
mhm.
one, I just don't know who it is for exactly. So like
I don't know.
that's like the main issue I have with it. Like the movie, I just don't
Yeah.
understand what this movie, who this movie appeals to in a lot of ways. Because
Mhm.
like I think
So
Muppet
there's
fans would
like,
just be like
mm,
weird
yeah.
about this. So yeah,
There's only like one joke that, well, not there's probably more, but the one joke that I remember like actually chuckling at a lot, I think was intentional. Where so when they're talking to the guy from Oz, Kermit goes, "Hi there, Mr. Oz. Are you by any chance related to Frank Oz?" And it's funny because like, oh, it's like the puppeteer Frank Oz who
yeah,
played Fozzie from us, and it's like it's a stupid reference too, but I don't know. I kind of liked it.
yeah. It's
And
such like a weird ass
you
movie.
mentioned Canada, one part. Hashtag Canada rep. But yeah, and also just my final note, I think the story wraps itself up really poorly. Where the whole point of the Oz story is like Dorothy, she comes to appreciate everything and be like, aw. She has to like make some sacrifice too, but in this version, Dorothy's like a bitch, and then when she gets back, she gets what she wanted anyway. Because they're like, nah, Dorothy, what's best for you is what you want to do. So just go off with the Muppets, and it's like, well, she didn't. She just got what she wanted. There's
Yeah,
no
what was the
sacrifice
point
there.
of this
That's not how you.
story? I
That's
guess
how
you
you
just
write a
learn
damn
to
character arc,
appreciate her
you know?
family and understand them slightly more. But I don't know. It's just a lot worse than what the actual story was
But see, I
doing.
feel that's barely anything, you know? It's
Yeah.
like,
Just don't get
I don't
much
like
out of
it.
this one. It's a very
Bleh.
yeah. It's like I don't know. You want to get to our ratings because I don't really feel like talking about this
Yeah.
movie anymore.
I'll give I guess like a low four, but this conversation has made me teeter on a three, to be
Same,
honest. This is
honestly,
really
same.
bad.
Like there's definitely like
Really bad.
yeah, it's a shitty movie. I hate to say that to a Muppet movie, but this is easily the
Yeah,
worst
I
Muppet
know,
movie.
because I feel bad because I love the Muppets so
Same.
much. So
It
when they miss
hurts.
like
This
this, I don't
hurts,
like to
honestly.
admit it.
How did they make a Muppet Wizard of Oz movie and then just like fuck it up like this?
I feel that should be like a home run. You know, you sub in the Muppets for like iconic characters. You do some like fun stuff. You could do something there, but no, they don't got anything. It
Yeah,
really disappoints me.
I don't know.
But
Luckily, we're getting to.
oh well.
I don't know. Yeah, I'd also give it like a low 4 out of 10, like I said. But yeah. Anyways, I guess we'll
Yeah.
get back into the comeback of the Muppets and get to
All right.
the
Yeah.
Muppets 2011, which we're getting to the
All right.
films that I
Okay.
feel like most people who
So
clicked on this video were looking forward to us discussing.
yeah. All right. So after this, the Dark Age of Muppets continued for a couple of years. There's like a Christmas movie in 2008, but we're not talking
Yeah,
about
well,
that
maybe
because that's
another
not
day,
about the
but
video.
not now, though.
Yeah, maybe we'll do like a bonus episode on the Christmas ones. But a point is that there was all this, and in 2008, the pitch process started because Jason Segel and Nicholas Stoller, they were like, or they had a pitch for like a Muppet comeback movie because like at the time, obviously because of all this, all the direct to DVD stuff, just things not making enough money. The Muppets, they were not in the cultural eye anymore. They were not that height they were in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. That momentum just wasn't there anymore, which is sad to see, but it's true. But I mean, the project was announced later in 2008. It was originally going to be called the greatest Muppet movie of all time, with a bunch of exclamation marks, which I don't like
I
that
don't like
title,
that
but it might
title.
but I think it's better than just the Muppets. That's not like you have to say the year of it to even know what you're talking about. Just the Muppets, like okay,
I guess
but
it's like I guess I could understand why it's like called that 'cause it's just like a new return for the Muppets, so they're like trying to like I guess just call it the Muppets, trying to be like simple with it, so that way people
yeah,
know the brand and
you know
know they're
the
gonna go see the movie. And
yeah, but yeah, then there's some more development stuff I noticed. I'm looking for these like production notes right now. Apparently, they met with creative heads at Pixar to fine tune the script, which is kind of odd. But I guess this is when they were like knee deep into the Disney stuff. The modern Disney logo plays over both of these movies, so I
yeah,
guess it kind of shows.
and they're
But
on
yeah,
Disney
then
Plus.
after all
Like I
that,
mean, like
and
most of the
the
other Muppet
general,
movies
yeah.
except the direct to DVD ones.
Yeah. But then all that, all the other general stuff, like the whole idea kind of paralleling what actually happened with the Muppets at the time, it came out, and yeah,
It's a great
I think
movie.
this is a really good movie.
Yeah,
If anything, this is my favorite Muppet movie we've talked about in like a while, because
It
in the
is
grand
one
history,
of
we've
it
been through
is
a
one
lot
of
of
my
rough stuff.
favorite ones next to like the original one and the Christmas Carol one. But yeah, it's up there with one
Hmm.
of my favorites. It's a
Yeah.
great charming little film about the Muppets all
Oh,
coming
definitely.
together. And it's a
Mm.
great movie. It's like I
I
like
think the
what they're
big
doing
thing that
here.
this movie really benefited from is that it has way more of, I think, a good creative voice compared to the other Muppet movies. Because Swamp Years, like we mentioned, it feels very like artificially engineered to be like for like young kids. Muppets Wizard of Oz doesn't know what it wants to be. You can trace back even further. I think Treasure Island has some ho hum tone issues in parts, and From
Hmm.
Space is another like kind of messy one. Suppose we haven't been on a good roll of these for a while. I'd say it's not going great. But here we actually get them that's a little more fine tuned. It knows exactly what it wants to be, and like it's not exactly like the same as I think my other favorite Muppet movies. Like tonally, the humor of this is a little different than like the Caper or like the original or even Christmas Carol, which is very different from the other ones. But
Yeah, but
still,
there's still
this
quite a
is
bit of
very of.
jokes that I love.
Mm,
Like this movie is still a really funny movie in
oh
a
no,
lot of places.
oh, oh, don't get me wrong. I love the jokes in this movie. I'm just saying it's definitely a lot
Yeah.
more like it has its own creative voice. I think it was good because the Muppets was really lacking like a spark. And this movie just comes in immediately and gives you that like spark. Because the beginning, you got this like a little backstory bit about Walter,
Walter, the
and
main
his back. I love the
character.
visual of that. How like yeah, Walter. I mean, I love the visual of that. By the way, he's like just this Muppet, and he's always placed beside his brother, and
Yeah,
he's like
I also like how
very
they just
obvious
don't
height
explain how
difference.
they're just brothers and
Mm.
like one is like a Muppet
No,
for
no,
some
I
reason.
I found that even funnier. I love this part
It's a
where
very
like
funny image.
where they do the like they do the opening home videos, and Walter's like, now I know what you're thinking. We could be twins. It's funny because like
It's
there's
cute. I
clear
really
height
like Walter as a
differential.
character. He's like a very
Yeah,
fun
he's very
protagonist.
endearing. I
I
like him a
feel like
lot
what's cool
actually.
about him is like he could be a
Fun.
self-insert for those die-hard Muppet fans in the olden days, you
Mm.
know?
I think
Like,
that was the see. It doesn't have a lot to impersonate. That's kind of like what the goal was. Walter is he's not like I wouldn't call him bland. They make him very simple because I think Walter is supposed to be in the shoes of us as an audience because like
yes.
Walter in this movie, I guess the after this he goes with his brother Gary and Gary's girlfriend Mary, and they go to the Muppet Studios on their trip to Los Angeles. And the whole thing is that Walter's like discovering this whole thing and like the oil baron thing. Walter, a lot of movies have this is kind of the surrogate for the audience. See, you're following along with Walter for this whole quest and
Yes.
everything. And I think that actually works very well because the whole point of it is Walter's the one who ends up finding Kermit and being like, we gotta put on the show again, and like eventually that leads to Kermit and the rest of the gang getting this whole thing together and starting the next Muppet show to raise all the money, get the studio back, and it's kind
Yeah.
of like yeah, Walter's doing that, but because of the circuit, it's kind of showing how like the audience was like I don't know, maybe it sounds pretentious, but I was kind of thinking about it. Thematically, it kind of makes sense because it showed Walter's the standard for the audience, and the audience's like support and everything is eventually what
Hmm.
brought back the Muppets in this. And I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe I'm just spitballing, but I kind of realized that I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, he's also very well puppeteered. I like his design because he's like
Hmm.
he like kind of
He's a
looks
great
humanish, but he's still a Muppet at the end of the day. So it's like he's more
Yeah.
simple, but it's like intentional. I like it a lot.
Is he a man
And
or is he a Muppet though? But we'll get to that later.
yeah, like the song says. That's what the song says. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I
uh,
remember first watching this movie a while back, and I've been wanting to revisit it for a while, and I think I like it even more on a rewatch. I think
oh,
it's
I
just a
did too,
great
definitely.
little movie in nearly every way. It's like a lot of it works. There's a lot of great funny gags, and it literally is just like a beautiful way of bringing the Muppets back together again for like a big show, and it works well. You know,
Mhm.
it's yeah, there's a lot of good jokes. In terms of the jokes I want to specifically bring up, I love the joke with when they're trying to get Gonzo back, and I also love the detail that Gonzo is working in the plumbing business. That's like a nice little callback to how he was in the original film, and he was like how he was a plumber. Nice that
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
really
that
nice
was
little
that's
callback.
true.
And I
Yeah,
also
that's neat. This movie connects most to the original Muppet movie than like the other ones because I like the detail that when they're uh, when they're doing like the thing with the contract or whatever, I think Statler and Waldorf are there, and they're like the Tex Richmond or bad guy, he's signing it. They mention it's the standard rich and famous contract, which is oh, that's what they said in the original Muppet movie with Orson Welles. It's like
oh
wow,
yeah.
it all comes full circle. That's neat. But yeah, there are details like that I like a lot. One thing I really do appreciate about this movie is like see this type of movie I'm not usually a fan of. You know, this type of thing where it's like, oh, it's been so long since our like last thing. It's like a legacy thing. All of our characters are split apart, but we're all gonna get them back together again to put on one last show. You know the type of thing this happens with other stuff before. The first example I can think of is the fucking Phineas and Ferb episode. Dude, we're getting the band back together, and else, but there's another stuff. It's in Country Bears. But I don't know. Most of the time, I find that like trope kind of lame. But I do think it's really clever in this instance because yeah, the kind of it's obviously it's like exaggerated because it's a fucking Muppet movie, but it like reflects what it was like at that time. Because as we see for these like last two movies and everything, no one gave a shit about the Muppets. They were in the fucking
I don't
dumps.
even think the
No one
creators gave
liked
that
them.
much of a shit anymore, man. It was kind of
Exactly. No one
sad.
like yeah, and it's like
kind of commentating
this
on
movie
that in some
uses
way.
this movie uses that framework of the Muppets' lack of relevancy, and it makes it into this really cool story about the Muppets' comeback. I think that's really cool. You don't usually
It's a cool
use
premise for a
some,
movie
you
like
know,
this.
yeah, I don't think there are many other things that use the reputation of a franchise at the time to actually build a story around that. I think that's really cool how the movie
Yeah.
does it.
I
And yeah,
like
there's
I like how
yeah,
I like just a lot of the just the tone of everything, and it's all just like it has that Muppet spirit to it in a lot of ways, and the songs specifically are
yeah,
really good.
definitely.
I like the songs a lot. It's probably one of my favorite Muppet soundtracks, if I'm being honest. I love the opening number
Oh
specifically.
yeah, it's so good.
That's my favorite.
I
I
love
love that
how it
one.
like I love how well it sets up things. So it's a very big, bombastic, Broadway like number, which is what the Muppets were known for. They like put on a
Yeah.
big show. They did all that stuff. I love the part of the end of it when like they finally exit on the bus and then they're like, finally, it stops it because they all just collapse on the floor.
Yeah,
Really
that
funny.
was funny.
They just like,
Also, just
"Mm."
another one of my favorite jokes is the scene where they're like going around, they're collecting the Muppets, and then they point out how they didn't show everyone, and then Rolf's all like, "I thought my story's
Right.
pretty interesting," and then he was just sleeping, and they said, "You want to go on? You want to get back
Yeah. Oh, it's
together?" And
so
Rolf's like,
funny.
"Yeah, sure."
Yeah,
It's like
and then he
pretty
like chuckles.
realistic to be
I was gonna
honest.
put that. I love that joke.
Yeah, that was funny.
That whole montage bit is like I think it's a smart way to do it because it's another Muppet like self-referential thing where they point out a trope. But it is easy. You don't need like extended scenes for everyone, and all the important Muppets I think get good ones because obviously Fozzie I think is the second biggest Muppet behind Kermit, so they
Yeah.
get a scene with him. I love the part where he's playing like a fucking discount version of Rainbow Connection. Really
Yeah, that was
funny.
funny. It was like
Like
a
the
hotel. It
yeah
was
yeah
like that was very funny. Yeah, I
yeah
liked it.
the Muppets.
The
It's
Muppet.
funny.
Oh my
They're
god,
stupid.
that was so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The Gonzo part, yeah, I like that
The
too. I
Gonzo
love
thing
the
and how he
part where,
fucking blows up the plumbing business is hilarious. It's a very
yeah, no, I
Gonzo
love
thing
the
for him
joke
to
where
do.
like, yeah, yeah, like he apparently had his like costume under the entire time. And he pulls it off and he just jumps off the roof. Very
Yeah.
Gonzo like extravagant move. I love that. And then I do a lot of quick cuts with the bigger montage, which I like. I like the part where like mm, they get Sam Eagle to be on this fucking like news station that just complains about everything. And the visual
Yeah,
of it's
that's
really
funny.
funny. They got like this like cane and they like pull everyone out when they like need to go to a different
Yeah.
location.
Also,
I
one of
found that funny.
probably my favorite gag in this movie was the inclusion of Jack Black as in this movie.
Oh my
He's
god, it's
hilarious. I genuinely
I
love
like
like
that.
what they
Okay.
did with him.
Oh my god, it's so funny how they like they bring him in for Animal and Animal. I like the whole
I like
thing.
how
My
Animal has
favorite,
like went through therapy. Like that's a funny thing
yeah,
to
he
do
has like
with him.
anger issues. That's like they have a bunch of where are blank Muppets because you gotta do that to get everyone back together. The fact that
Hmm.
they make Animal, he's in like anger management and drums are his trigger word. It's so silly, but I love it. And then that does mm,
And also the scene
that
where
part pays off super
he
well
just
at the
beats
end.
the shit out of like just everyone beats the shit out of each other during the therapy session, and then he just runs away.
Yeah,
And then just the part
the
when they
Animal drum
kidnap Jack
thing.
Black, and
Yeah,
that whole segment is
yeah, yeah.
hilarious with him being kidnapped as a celebrity, and also the
Yeah,
fucking
no, it's so funny because the
barbershop
audience
song. That's
thinks it's all like a
hilarious.
joke. The audience thinks it's like a joke that Jack Black is like upset, but the Muppets literally fucking committed a
There's
crime in this movie.
like
They got away
Kermit's
with it. It's so
reaction
funny.
to it as well, with him like
Yeah,
having no
he's
choice
like,
but to do it anyway.
yeah. Fozzie's like, what's worse, mildly inconveniencing Jack Black or destroying the Muppets forever? And he's like, kidnapping Jack Black, Fozzie. He's like so like distraught about it.
Yeah, it's
Mm.
funny.
The animal thing earlier, though, which connects to the Jack Black thing, I like that a lot because it's a gag, but it sets up stuff later. Because they're like, because the Kermit can't get any other celebrity host, so the fact that they set up the fact that a Muppet is currently in touch with a celebrity loops back to that well later. And also, they do a thing where they set up the fact that drums are his trigger word, and that's a funny joke, like I said. But that also is a payoff later because the drums kicking in Rainbow Connection is like when the song really like when Rainbow Connection amps up, like I was talking about earlier. That's when the drums really kick in. It's like
Hmm.
someday they'll find it. That's
I
like
love that scene. I
that
think
part is
it's
so
like
good
some people
musically.
might like on
Mm,
one hand it's like I feel like in certain scenarios in like movies, it could be seen as like shameless nostalgia bait, but this feels very like earnest, and also it makes sense in the context of the movie because like of
And
course
maybe
the
yeah, it makes sense.
Muppets would like recreate this iconic scene because like it's something that
They're literally
defines
trying
them
to
in a
raise
lot of
money for it.
ways.
They
So
need
it makes
all
sense,
that.
and it
Like,
also has like a nice added to it called the Muppets joining in. It's like it's amazing.
yeah,
So
it's very
it
nice. Very nice. I think I don't know. I think conceptually it's kind of cheap. Like, oh, you're gonna play your most like
but it's
iconic thing.
executed
Remember Rainbow Connection?
really
But
well.
it's yeah, it comes down to
And
execution.
it
Really,
fits
I
the
think it's like a
story and
well
what they're
done scene.
trying to do with this movie.
Yeah. The other thing with this movie, I feel like in any other context, it would be a lame nostalgia. You know what I mean? Like the soft
Yeah,
reboot
but it feels
nostalgia
like
thing
just
where
the
they bring back
Muppets.
old
It's
characters,
because it's the
only to show
Muppet
that they're like,
property that I think makes it so good.
yeah, yeah. They still have that Muppet energy to it. It's not like so this is like a kind of maybe a bad example, but the only like recent one I'm thinking of is a fucking Dial of Destiny. Where they're like,
Uh,
oh, and Indy's just an old depressed man, and he breaks it off with like Marion, I guess, for some
yeah, what a
fucking
way to
reason, and his
destroy
son's
his
dead. I
character.
think it's like, yeah, yeah, that whole thing sucks ass. But like, in this, I don't know. They do a similar thing here where Kermit and Piggy's relationship breaks up. I think it works
Mhm.
better here because one, that fits in line with their like dynamic. You know, Kermit
Yeah,
and Piggy is always a half jokey, half serious relationship that falls apart. And like the movie is still fun. It's not just recapturing it because oh, it plays the music you remember. Oh, it's these characters you remember. It's a serious attempt to do another good Muppet story, and I think it does it really well. I love this movie so
yeah. I
much.
also love
Very
the
well.
ending of this movie with like how they don't even end up raising the amount of money to save the theater. I mean, they still get the theater at the end if you stick till the credits because
Mhm.
the oil baron gets knocked out and then that just kind of gives them the studio, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I did
Mhm.
like the idea that they didn't even raise enough money to save it because that's kind of like in some way it's like unrealistic. So the film is able to like show that realistic side to it. There's such a in general
Yeah.
there's just a genuine heart to this film. It felt like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
creators
I
really
do
wanted
like
to
that
honor
because
these
uh, it's
characters.
a good compromise with it. That whole thing where it's like yeah, the Muppets are very like they have very saccharine, sappy endings, but in a good way. Obviously, it fits the nature of how charming they are. But in this, it's like it's not exactly wrapped up like exactly how it would be. There's an optimistic conclusion. You know, they gained that audience from that show, and the Muppets are back in the limelight again. Everyone loves them, and it's a sweet ending.
Mhm.
Um, for I also love I love the scene where Walter's whistling near the end.
Yeah,
It's a
that was
specific one
nice.
to point out, but I like it because this whole thing is see Walter. I think they do scenes where he's brainstorming his act, and it's kind of like he's kind of replicating the acts of other famous Muppet things because he's looked up to them so long. And
Mhm.
actually, being a Muppet that means a lot. He tries to copy a lot of their specific
Yeah, I
things,
think
but
Walter's
then
just an
eventually,
honest and likable character in so many ways. You can
yeah, yeah,
really
he
like
is.
you can really
Yeah,
see yourself in it in some way in terms of like this big
yeah,
Muppet
yeah.
fan that might exist somewhere trying to like like his care for the Muppets is treated very well and it's like a very wholesome
Yeah, yeah,
and
definitely. It's very sincere. But yeah, I
likable
like that
story.
whistle thing because like the whole thing it's just because instead of copying all the other Muppets, he like does something of his own. He brings something own to the Muppets with for like the table, and that's what everyone people they all love. They love the whistle bit.
Yeah, him
And it's kind of
joining the
like a
Muppets
good
is just a very nice ending to him. Like it's very
yeah,
you can't help
it's
but be
sweet.
happy for the guy, you know?
Yeah. It also shows in a way like how the Muppet ensemble works. Cause like Walter brought his own thing to the table, and that like brought everyone together. It kind of shows how each Muppet, none of them are too similar to each other, and they all bring out their little thing to the Muppet like melting pot as in an ensemble
Yeah, even
cast.
though there's a
I think
lot
that
of
worked really well
Muppets,
too.
but yeah.
I love the Muppets. So cool.
Yeah.
Um, I'll talk about Walter's art. We talk a lot about him because I think it's like earned the way. It's very sweet how he ends up getting his place in the Muppets,
He's a
and like
solid
his
protagonist. I like
yeah.
him a lot.
Yeah, the Gary stuff I like too a lot actually because like they do a natural thing setting it up because you're told the story from Walter's POV at first, so it's like you're not really thinking about Gary's drama as much as like it's fine, but no, you kind of realize that over time Gary he's putting a lot of focus on Walter, which is sweet because they have a very nice sibling dynamic. But also, he went to this first fucking girlfriend and got detoured to being about the Muppets, and like you kind of forget it was even about like the whole setup of the movie is Gary and his girlfriend going for their sakes because we're all wrapped up in this Muppet stuff. You kind of forget about him. So no, I like the thing to do with that. How Gary kind of he gets his priorities straight and figures out what he has to do, will leaving Walter to him, and then they get the fucking banger song out of it, the Man or Muppet bit,
Manly
which is
Muppet.
yeah,
I
with
love
fucking
that. Um,
Sheldon Cooper from
oh
Big
my
Bang
god, that
Theory
was
there.
so funny. I remember I first watched this movie and it was
Mhm.
like, wait a minute. And I just started laughing. It's almost like I can't take this song as seriously now because of that, because of Sheldon Cooper in it. I'm like, oh god. Man, I found it funny that they
Yeah,
chose him
yeah.
to represent
Mhm,
Hugh and Walter. I remember on my first viewing,
mhm,
I was like kind of mixed, and I'm still sort of mixed on the stuff with Gary and Mary, because on one hand I understand what the point is, and I do like how it leads to the Man or Muppet song, which I really like. By the way, that song's been
mhm.
stuck in my head for a while, but
A
yeah,
Muppet of a
I don't know.
Man.
I just
Yeah.
remember on like my first viewing is that like it felt just felt like a bit forced conflict into the script for me at first, because it was like because of the established characters that were shown at the beginning, and it's like a nice thing, but like the conflict is
Mm,
resolved pretty quickly,
I don't know.
and like I don't
I
know, I
would.
don't hate
I'd
it or
have to.
anything. It's not a
Mhm.
huge issue, but it's just
I
like
don't know. I'd
always
have to
something that
disagree on
irks me a
that
bit.
personally because I think they set it up like pretty naturally. Because like I mentioned, they like I think at the very like first one of the very first scenes is like in the opening song. Mary gets her own little bit to be like how she wants like alone time with him, and that's always stuck with like Walter because she like appreciates their sibling bond, so she's not gonna like exactly call that out. But, it's like something she's internally feeling, and that
Yeah, that's fair. I did like and
and then
appreciate it more on this rewatch. So
yeah, I also like her song a lot. The me party bit, it's fun, whole thing.
yeah.
But
Um,
yeah,
good. I
um,
also I guess another thing I don't love. I don't really care too much for the villain of this movie.
Um, he's very like stock, I guess the whole thing is. He literally has Richmond in the last name because he's a rich man. So
Yeah.
they didn't go for very like nuanced character writing there. Um, he does what he needs to do. You need someone to get that ball moving so like the story actually happens, and I think they like set that up
hmm
pretty efficiently there. Um, I love the part where Kermit is like, "How about I just try asking him?" And then he has this whole song about like he's tax rich man. Everybody listen, and then the whole thing is a little bit, and then he's like, "You could have just said no." Like, this whole bombastic thing
That
for
was
nothing.
kind of
It's very
funny.
and yeah. Oh, I love the part where he starts a maniacal laugh. So he just says
Maniacal
maniacal
laugh.
laugh.
I also like his
Yeah, it's
henchmen
fun.
a lot. I like those
Oh
guys.
yeah, yeah, the bear from Muppets from Space is back,
Yeah, that
which I
guy's always
appreciated
being
because I like that
henchman
guy
for
a
the
lot.
villain.
Bobo.
I don't know. I just don't
Yeah.
think it's such a great movie. Like I don't know. The Muppets have had better villains.
Yeah,
Like well,
definitely. I think the villain of the next movie we're gonna talk about is way
oh yeah,
better, but
honestly,
that's
that's
like
like the main aspect that I think is
mm,
better than this one. Uh,
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just want to have. I mean, it's just a great movie. I can't really see anyone hating it, to be honest. Like,
No, no.
it's just something
It's
so
very
good.
likable, and I know most Muppet movies are, but this one especially just has that like real charm and real
It felt
like I
very
said, there's this
genuine.
like
Felt
energy
felt from
to
a
it.
place of
Yeah,
love in terms of just
yeah, yeah. Because I think
commemorating these
Jason
characters.
Segel, he like the guy who plays Gary, he was the co-writer on this, and I think he stated going in that he like really wanted he had this very specific interpretation of the Muppets that he wanted to like get right and do well with, and like because he really wanted something like good with the franchise considering like this dark age that we just talked about that the Muppets were in. I think actually I was looking into like production notes. Apparently, Frank Oz, he like didn't like the initial like script of this movie because then it was disingenuous to the characters. But you know,
Mhm.
and then I think afterwards when the movie came out, he said he was more like positive on it with like a few specific notes on it. But even it got Frank Oz himself's blessing.
Yeah.
The guy who one of the first Muppet people. I think that's nice.
Mhm.
Jim would have loved it,
Yeah,
and that's the
Jim
main
would
thing.
probably be proud of this one, unlike fucking the
Yeah,
fucking
it
Kermit
really shows the
slop
Muppet
years.
legacy well and nicely without being like nostalgia baity or cheapy.
Yeah.
It's a real
Yeah,
special movie,
another
I
like
think.
callback I like
And
is I like how there in the first film there was like a gag of one of the I forget his name, but you know the big hairy guy
yeah, yeah,
being
that
left
guy, that guy.
behind.
The other thing where
Uh,
he's running again, he
yeah,
wants
that
to
was
do it
cute.
too.
I think there's a lot of cool references
That's sweet.
to the original
Mm,
Muppet
yeah,
movie. It's cute. I
yeah,
love this film a lot. I feel like talking about it
yeah.
makes
There's
me
other,
like it more, and like my small issues
yeah,
aren't
the
really
same
a
here.
bad for me, and I can still find some good stuff in like the Gary and Mary conflict that I think benefits, and I still like Gary as a character and think that I really like his relationship with Walter, and Walter's goaded. So
Yeah.
it's a great movie.
Hmm.
It gets better the longer I think about it. It's probably one of my favorite Muppet movies, definitely. I love it a
I
lot.
would agree.
It's like I
Very,
don't know.
very.
I don't know if I have much else
I
to
don't have
do.
much. I think I just have a couple quick jokes I want to mention, and then we can just move on.
Hmm.
One of my favorites is the character of '80s Robot.
Yeah,
He didn't do
I
much,
like
but I
him.
like him.
I
It's
like him.
funny. He's like having fucking new Coke and like things that haven't even like been around since like the '80s, serving drinks. It's funny. Remind me of the robot in Rocky Four of all things, but it is funny. Uh, and then
Yeah.
my other like big laugh for me was when they're like, how are we gonna get to where Piggy is quickly? And they're like, oh, we'll travel by map.
Oh, I love
It's
that
like
joke.
what?
Yeah, I was gonna bring that one up
It's so
before we
sick.
stopped.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love the visual of the car like submerging out of the
Yeah.
beach water. It's
Yeah,
so
that was
funny.
cute. Yeah, that's
So,
funny. I like that.
yeah.
I also I
Hmm.
like this joke specifically, and it kind of relates to our issues we discussed with Muppet Wizard of Oz. But when fucking Gonzo falls, he screams Apollo 13. And on one hand, what he does is like funny for kids because, you know, he's falling and doing the exploding shit, you know. But on the other hand, adults could get a laugh out of it because they see a deeper meaning in it. So this is what I miss from the Muppets. It shows a joke that
Yeah,
benefits
see,
two
that's
different
an
age
example of
groups
like a reference joke. We don't have to get what it's saying to
to make you
laugh at it.
laugh.
And then
Yes, that's what I like. That's what's
those are the
good
best
about
kind of
Muppets
reference
comedy a
joke.
lot of the time for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Very, very well done. I'm
yes,
trying
it's a
to
great
think if
movie.
there's any like other specific jokes I'm thinking of. Oh, I love the part where like Walter finds out the plan and he just starts like
Run. Yeah, I
screaming
love that.
afterwards.
Yeah.
And then oh, I got a plan. It's a subversion joke. They go to a fucking hot dog place. Like,
Yeah, and I
yeah, that was a
also like
good
the
plan,
part where
Walter.
Kermit first shows up and
Great.
it's like in this perspective of Walter and it's like God showing up. That's cute.
Yeah, he like passes out because he's like so shocked. Oh, other part, the part before that, I like where they try throwing Walter into like Kermit's like mansion or whatever, and gets fucking zapped by the electric fence.
Yeah, I
It's
forgot
funny.
about that. I love that joke.
Yeah, yeah. Mm,
Yeah, I think that's all the
yeah.
jokes I want
Also,
to
the
bring up
song
for
after
myself.
that is really. I love that. We didn't mention the music as much, but they're all really,
They're all
really good
really
songs. I don't even know
good.
if I can pick
My main
because they're all
ones
like
I like are
very
the
solid.
Man or Muppet and the Life's a Happy Song opening. Those are the
Yeah, I
main
love the
ones.
opening mainly.
I like
That's a biggie for
the
me.
one that Kermit sings when looking at the pictures. I know this isn't like an actual musical
Uh,
number and it's like a licensed song, but the song of "We Built This Thing" was included while this city meant yeah.
yeah, it's neat because I like the part where like they're doing the montage where that cuts and it's boring. But Walter's like, "You're the Muppets. You
Yeah,
do
that
this to music," and it's like,
great.
oh no, they get their energy back, their
Yeah,
spark.
I might.
And it's fun.
This movie gets better the more I think about it. I think I might actually raise my rating later, to be honest. Like just talking about it, just talking about this and the Wizard of Oz Muppet movie has made me hate that movie more and make me like this movie more.
Yeah. Well, I
So
don't even hate The Wizard of Oz. It's just kind of an odd duck of a movie that
yeah,
I'm very
it just
fascinated by.
mhm.
But it felt good going from that to this because this definitely understands the Muppets as a franchise a lot more, and it
Yes,
felt good going
it's
back to
it's
this
like a
at
great
the very end.
tribute to the Muppets, and it's done wonderfully. And I think that's all I gotta say about it. Do you have anything else to say?
No. I think I mentioned. Oh, also, this is Cars 2 billboard at one part. I find that funny.
Uh,
And you wouldn't get this, but and there's one part where Donald Glover has a cameo, and right before
oh
that,
yeah,
Ken Jeong does. Yeah. Which I noticed they're both on Community, so I wonder if that was intentional
yeah. I
because it
think
would have been well
around that
this time.
time, there's like different celebrities like Whoopi Goldberg in this movie and Neil Patrick Harris, but there's also like a cameo of like, wait, yeah, no, there's like a joke where a kid is calling Kermit one of the Ninja Turtles, which is kind of a
Yeah,
stupid
I
joke,
remember
but
that.
I
That's
found
funny.
funny.
Oh, I love that part where all the celebrities are coming in, and they're like people they don't even like know.
Yeah. And also
It's
like the
like
joke
they don't even
when
know who
Fozzie
Kermit is.
lays
It's
down on
funny.
the sign and then it's like it realizes that they weren't close to the money goal at all, which is a sad moment
Yeah,
but also a funny joke, man.
yeah.
Anyways,
Well,
yeah.
the part at the beginning where there's no one in the theater and there's this fucking like just hobo. He's the only guy they
Hobo
got.
Joe, yeah, I love that joke.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a legend for.
Yeah, what a legend of the character. Um
Uh-huh.
yeah, that's it. That's all I gotta say. You have anything else to say?
No, I think we can go into ratings now.
I'm gonna give
I
this
would
a
give this a
high
low.
8 out of 10 or
Yeah,
low 9 out of 10. Near that
I would
range.
agree actually. Low 9 for me, but still
Yeah, I might
very
raise it
solid.
to a 9 later because I do think this
Mhm,
movie, I just connect and enjoy this movie a lot. So,
mhm,
yes. Um, anyways, I guess we'll
uh,
get into the sequel, Muppets Most Wanted, which is our last film of today, and it's a good movie. It's a sequel to this film because this film did pretty well. The original film, I'm pretty sure, did well enough to get a sequel, and I don't think me personally, I don't love this movie quite as much, but I do think it's a good movie. It's a solid continuation of the original film of the last film. It's like different from it in a lot of ways, as it's more of like a plot wise, it's more of like a standard Muppet movie, but I think it works well. I think it's like a solid, funny time with a lot to appreciate. And about it, it's a good movie. I like it a lot. I don't like it quite as much as as the uh, as the last one, but I'll admit it's pretty good.
Yeah. History-wise, there's not like that much to really go over comparatively. Just the Muppets, the 2011 movie, it has a bad title, I think, but that movie did very well. Like, and as the movie kind of foretold, it brought some new light to the franchise. People were like, "Whoa, the Muppets exist," and people loved it. It got
Hmm.
a whole thing, and so because of that, Disney greenlit a sequel in 2012. Jason Segel did not come back for it because I think he said he accomplished his goal with like the first one, that idea he had of it, which is
Yeah,
why
that's fair.
Gary isn't in this movie. It's like, you
Mm,
just kind of
yeah,
dipped,
that makes
and so if the
sense.
actor dipped, the writer did too. But then, the other guy, the director of these two, I think James Bobbin, I want to say is his name. I think so. But yeah,
Yeah, it
he
is.
was more in charge of this one, and the idea he describes here, it was inspired more by Grey Muppet Caper and Manhattan. I think you can tell by the more wackier nature and
Yeah,
the fact that it
yeah.
uses some little bits from Take Manhattan, but
Hmm.
also a mix of the Pink Panther, which is very specific, but I can kind of see it actually. And then
I
I
guess in
think the
terms
overall
of the
point is
heist
like,
side of this film.
yeah, old school like crime stuff of the '60s. He said, and then adding in Muppet Mayhem mixed into it. That was his general pitch for it.
Mm.
Um, the original title was going to be called The Muppets Again, which I think would be
What?
very funny, and I wish
That
they
would have
did
been
that
really.
because
That's kind of a stupid
that's
title,
why
but
the
yeah, that'd be funny.
exactly, but it was like stupid intentionally. Like that's
The
why
Muppets again.
the doing the
Oh,
sequel
that's
song
why they
ends. Yeah,
say in the opening,
yeah,
let's call the Muppets.
yeah.
It's called the
It's
Muppets.
the Muppets again. But yeah, then the movie came out. It did kind of shit box office wise, but I'll talk about
Oh,
that at
that
the end because
sucks.
it'll
I guess
switch
that's why
into
we
this
never got a
side.
trilogy out of this, which is a shame because
Yeah, no, it sucks because I do think they could make more really good theatrical Muppet stuff, which this movie proves,
Yeah,
but it
because
just
this is a
never
good
gained that
movie. I
momentum.
like a lot about it.
And it's
I don't
very,
think.
yeah, I love this movie, honestly. See, I think the easiest way to look at it is compared to the original Muppet movie and the 2011 movie, I'd say there are a lot of similarities between them. They're the more like big putting on a show, big emotional movies that really like connect. Whereas this is like the Great Muppet Caper more so. Like that's the direct parallel. It's more wacky. It's way more focused on gags and an overall story. Has a bunch of more meta bits. And well, the both Muppets 2011 and the 79 movie have meta bits, but you know what I mean. And also, they both kind of similar like heist stuff, and they're both about
Yeah.
a character being framed for something they didn't do because of
Yeah.
a master thief. So, I guess there's there's a big parallel there. I'd say this is much more intricately plotted, which I think is partially this movie's like detriment in bits. But overall, I think it's very fun, and I like a lot of what this does very much.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a good movie. I
mm,
think the plot is kind of like a fun thing to do with the Muppets. So it's basically about a frog
mm.
escaping a Russian prison named
Yeah,
Constantine,
Constantine.
who escapes prison and just so happens to look exactly like Kermit, except there's a black dot on the side of his face. So he ends up framing Kermit into making the police officers think that he's him, and then Constantine seizes control of the Muppets and takes them on world tour with Ricky Gervais, with them teaming up to pull off a heist to steal a lot of jewelry by going to multiple landmarks to find clues.
Mhm.
And it's a good
Yeah,
movie. It's a good plot. I like it.
yeah, I think one of my favorite bits in this movie, I think, is the beginning. Okay, first of all, I love that this takes place right after the last one. More sequels should do that. It is very
Yeah, the
funny.
opening
But
is
second,
like right after the last one, and then they sing, "We're doing a sequel. We're back."
so funny, like it's like the ending of the 2011 movie is very triumphant and nice, but like that they revealed because they were shooting the 2011 movie, so it all just kind of like stops and they're like
Yeah.
everyone leaves. They're like, I thought I saw some people tapping their toes out. Those were paid dancers. And then Statler and
That's
Waldorf
funny.
noticed the camera and they're like, oh no, they've ordered a sequel, and that's the whole
And then
thing.
they
It's such
sing a
a
sequel
stupid
song
starting
when they
point.
mentioned that they're waiting for Tom Hanks to make Toy Story 4, which has
Toy
aged
Story
really
4.
badly now because now
Now
not
it
only
would be now we wait for Tom Hanks to make Toy Story 6. That's
yeah,
so funny.
at some point
We're
when Toy
so
Story
far
5
away.
comes out, it's gonna say Toy. Oh my god! If they make a Toy Story 6, that's when
While we
okay,
wait for
that's
Tom
when
Hanks to
we're gonna lose
make
it.
Toy Story 6. I thought it. That song's really good too. I love
Yeah, it's a good song.
it's a good way to get all the it's a good way to get all the Muppets involved because like when they pitch the sequel, you can bounce around to like a bunch of different
I don't know
characters.
why, but I
My
always
favorite
laugh at
is
the joke where Fozzie's all like, it just summarizes the plot of the first movie, and then, and
yeah,
then
no, I was gonna mention that. I love that part. It's so stupid.
yeah,
He's like,
it's a very
mm.
Fozzie moment thing from him, but yeah, it's a funny
Ozzy,
joke.
did you even watch our last film? Also, I love the part where for some reason Swedish Chef has this, and it's like an experimental art house movie for some
Holy
reason.
finger,
It's so
the
stupid.
audience select one.
And then
The final films.
yeah, and then I don't yeah, and then Dominic comes in and just whispers the plot in Kermit's ear, and he's like, "That's perfect." And then the thing gets set up. Um, I love the villains of this movie. 2011, I think this is the biggest, like, sort of the biggest slump of that one. Tex Richmond, he's funny, but he's not a very in-depth character. Whereas here, I
Yeah.
love both of the villains.
Yeah, I love
We got
Constantine
Constantine,
specifically. I
who,
like and Ricky Gervais.
yeah,
They get like this really
yeah,
good duet too, which is one of my favorite Muppet
yeah.
songs, if I'm being honest.
Number one,
Yeah, I also
you're
love
number
fucking
two.
Constantine's Russian accent. I find it hilarious.
Mhm. Oh my God, it's so
And
funny.
so, want to know what's
You
funny
know, it's
about
kind
that
of,
is that the actor who
yeah.
plays him is the guy who
Oh
plays
yeah, I was
the
gonna say.
new Muppet, the new Kermit in the new
Yeah, yeah.
ones, and I
Yeah,
find
Matt
that
Vogel.
very
He
ironic.
It's
Like,
hilarious to me because Matt Volk, he plays Kermit now after Steve Whitmire left,
even though the point of
and
this was that his voice
he
was different from
yeah
Kermit. Like,
yeah, he sounds more like modern Kermit sounds more like Constantine than Kermit. It's so
yeah, it
funny,
sounds more like
but
Constantine doing the Kermit voice now. Like, come on.
yeah, it's very ironic.
Yeah.
But oh my god, his character in this is so funny, and the way he Dominic too, played by Ricky
Oh,
Gervais.
he's great.
I love his name is Dominic Bad
Bad
Guy,
guy.
and it's pronounced Bad G,
Bad G.
which
Yeah,
means
also
good
Ricky Gervais just does a
man.
great job.
So stupid.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
the
great.
scenes with them are
Mm.
probably what like make me like this movie a lot. They're probably
Yeah,
the
no, they
best
have
parts
a
of the
really
movie
good
for me.
back and forth. It's
Yeah,
it's
they're
it's
really
very
fun
funny the idea
antagonists.
that like there's a whole song about it where Constantine's like, I'm number one, you're number two, and it's hilarious how like he just like he's being
He's
like
being such a
manipulated
dick
around
and
by
trying
someone
to.
like 4 times. Yeah, yeah, no. It's hilarious that like Ricky Gervais he's being like fucked around by a guy like a fourth of his height. It's so
Yeah, it's
silly.
so funny.
Such
And then I
goofy.
like the scene where he tries to turn his back on him, and then it just doesn't work at all. That's
Yeah.
funny. They're a fun
Hilarious.
pit.
Mm.
They're fun villains. I
Yeah.
like the just
Um, um,
they're the best
yeah.
part of the movie for me. And
I would agree with it.
yeah, I also
Constantine
do
definitely gets
like
the best jokes. So
yeah, he's
silly.
funny. I like him. He's
But,
probably one of the best Muppet antagonists. So
I
he's a
would agree. Mi- well, actually, he might be the best Muppet
you know
antagonist
sure
because,
yeah
like,
maybe
yeah, I mean, the other ones have good ones, but
that's true. He
we're not
probably
exactly
is.
cheering. We're not actually exactly cheering for the villain of. I don't know, some of these don't even have villains. Take Manhattan
That's
didn't have a
true.
villain. Chris Pratt didn't. But regardless, I love Constantine. He's such a funny character.
Yeah, he's fun.
I will say, I think I have some minor stipulations of how this actual plot gets started. I don't know about you. Where when Constantine comes back, I really like the joke of it where in order to excuse it, Dominic's like he had a cold. That's why he sounds silly the entire movie. But
Yeah.
I don't know, for me also it's kind of like I like that Animal picks it up because it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like animal more animalistic, so we can like pick up on a certain like
Unlike.
traits like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
However, I do think it's weird that the only Muppets that do this, besides Animal, are Walter makes sense because we've
We
had a
see
movie about how
Walter
he was
like
obsessed with it.
obsessive, so he
And
knows Kermit more better than
yeah,
like
he's-
probably all of them might do. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So that's good. And I think Fozzie makes sense too because he's like one of the closest to Kermit. But I don't
Yeah.
know. Some of the other ones, like they do this a joke later where they specify that like I remember this is part of later where they make a joke about how Walter took spotlight away from other Muppets and it has
Oh
Rizzo
yeah, I
and
forgot to mention that as
Robin.
like Rizzo returning in that one scene and Robin. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Rob. I think it's a funny joke because it shows that they really haven't been in the movie. But also,
Hmm.
that made me think back on it now. It's like, well, how come Walter noticed, but fucking Kermit's nephew didn't realize it was different? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just specific enough. And I think more.
Is
I
Robin
get the
even
idea.
there during
And all.
most of the movie though? I think he was just in that one
No,
scene.
no, that's the weird thing. He's in there for that stupid joke about how he's not in the movie. That's the weird
Yeah,
thing.
then I
Um,
don't even think he's
I
in
will
there.
say. Actually, couldn't think of it. Where the fuck is Robin in this? Because in 2011, it's implied that Kermit lives on his own. Did he just leave his nephew on
I
his
don't
own?
know.
What happened to Rob? Hashtag justice for Robin. I need answers on this. But
Yeah,
the point is, I just think it's weird that like, and I do like what they set up with it where it's like, oh, they got so blindsided by the fact that Kermit was giving them what they thought they wanted, all this freedom.
exactly. That's how I kind
But
of
then
saw
when they
it.
realize but then like slowly they start to like appreciate how Kermit reined them in a little bit, and has a
Hmm.
sweet ending because and even if they don't immediately recognize that because they were so blindsided. But I think it's a little bit convenient,
Yeah,
and
I
normally I
was
wouldn't
gonna bring.
mind
Yeah, it's
because
like
this
the
yeah. And
thing I
normally I wouldn't
totally
mind because like it's more
admit.
stupid than the other ones, but unlike Caper, which I think is most it's like that's like a 90-10 joke serious split. This is more of like a 60-40 split where this movie still wants you to take it seriously. It's just very jokey too. So the more emotional elements I think could be set up a little better. not a fan of that as much.
Yeah,
But
another
that's
thing
all.
I
That's all.
like is the dynamic of Sam the Eagle with the
Oh my
French
god, I
guy
love those
Jean.
guys. Mm.
They're
First of
great.
all, it's so funny to me how like this movie's a sequel to the 2011 movie, but it's kind of barely one because because I noticed Sam Eagle before this his job was being a news anchor in the 2011 movie, but in this it's being like a fucking CIA agent,
Hmm.
and it makes me think these movies are like more like disconnected than they actually seem to be, and I just
Yeah,
kind of roll with that. I think that's fun. But okay, I love the part where they meet for the first time and they just pull out
they're
increasingly
seeing
bigger
bigger
badges.
badges. Yeah,
Just
that was funny. That's a
this
good way
big
to
badge.
establish
So funny.
establishing these
Hmm.
characters. And yeah, they just have a lot of fun jokes. Like I like the scene where Sam catches Kermit and Fozzie, and then they try to like take him away, and then John just goes on vacation while Sam is forced to deal with them by himself. And then John
Yeah,
just randomly shows up at the end. That's great, honestly.
yeah,
I also like how they just feel like it's Fozzie of all people who is like the
yeah.
real.
No, no, it's funny because they planted a chicken on like the crime scene. I thought it was
Yeah,
Fozzie. I
yeah,
found that funny.
yeah. That's funny.
Um, that also leads to the really good interrogation song, which
That's good. Yeah.
one is really catchy, but I also like because I like it when they have big ensemble casts like this. They can do things where they can like rattle off a bunch of Muppets to show them a lot. I like the song for that a lot. They like this Muppet's alibi, this Muppet's alibi, this is and it's all really good stuff. I like that, and Sam and the other guy, they're very fun. I like how they like it's kind of cliche, but I love the way they like they have this stupid rivalry at first and they bicker, but then they have this really dramatic leaving where they're like
Yeah.
crying
It's
at
kind
the
of
end when they have
funny.
to split apart.
Yeah.
I love both of their characters a lot. They're really like I was never huge on Sam Eagle, but this movie kind of sways me in his direction. He's
I
great.
think I'm just like I like this movie, but while I do enjoy it, I think it's a solid film. I feel like I don't know. It just like I feel I enjoy a lot about it. I enjoy the scenes with Constantine and Dominic. I enjoy the stuff with Sam and Jean. I just feel like a lot of the middle stuff isn't something I'm overly into, and I'm just kind of waiting for the big climax. Also, this movie is in a great climax. I really like the climax of this movie. It's
Oh,
really
it
fun.
does, it does.
Yeah, it's just like I'm not
Um,
like overly
I get that.
into this
I
movie in a lot of ways. It's like it's a good
mm,
movie. I really have
I
a
don't know.
good
I
time
kind
watching it.
of.
But
I
yeah.
get what you mean. There's like this like stretch where they do like a bunch of the Muppet Show performances, and I get what you like. It's essential to like the bit right now. I think it's funny how
Yeah.
like I love the reveal that it turns out that Dominic was just like bribing these people into like
Hmm.
fake clapping and laughing to explain why like no one actually gives a shit in the shows, but they've been suddenly doing well. There's like a natural I like the progression of that because at first you can be like, oh, maybe they like the first show they did, but then eventually it's like, this is just nonsense. Why did I enjoy this? But it's like, oh, it's a good reveal. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And what else was I gonna say? Um, I don't know. There's good gags in those like little stretches too. I like I forget exactly. I like the like when Gonzo does like the canon thing again because he's been like campaigning for it the entire time and like it goes wrong in a
I like the
classic
payoff of the
Gonzo fashion.
Muppet ladder
It's
thing
fun.
that they established earlier, and then
Yeah,
it
yeah,
just pays
it's
off at
funny.
the
It's
end. That was
funny.
cute.
Mm. I like this. I like the Spanish cover of the Muppet Show. Oh wait, no, I love that part about the Spanish Muppet thing, and also really
Hmm.
like the I like it when they do it the first time and Constantine can't be like Kermit properly, and he's confused. Then he just falls off the Muppet Show
That was
logo.
funny. That's one of my favorite
That's
jokes in the
really
movie,
funny.
to be honest.
Mm,
Yeah, bro
yeah.
just like passes
Also,
out.
I love also I love the part where he's like practicing his Kermit
Yeah, he's
impression.
just watching
So
old clips
stupid.
of
He's like
Kermit from like, and then he just starts
the
doing his own
lovers,
voice.
the dreamers, and she's
Yeah.
fun. He,
and I don't know, it's just like not overly into the middle chunk, and like I don't know, and like I just kind of,
mm, and I can do a
it's one
certain
of
formula,
those
but I think
movies.
it's still necessary to like
Yeah,
show the
I'm just not like
whole progression and
there's.
everything.
It's still a good movie. It's
Mm.
definitely a good one. Uh,
Yeah.
the
I
songs
know.
are
I
really
really just
good.
do think the. Oh, I agree, definitely. There's the big house one, or like that. We
Yeah,
mentioned the
that's
number
good.
one,
And
number
in
two.
general,
Good.
the whole thing
Uh,
with Kermit in the Russian prison has its moments, but not something I'm overly into, to be honest. I think that was one of
oh,
the things.
I don't know. I really like
I
that
like
stuff
the
actually.
song. I
I
understand. I like what it tries to do with
um
Kermit, but I'm just like itself stuff. I'm not like overly
I don't
sold
know.
on
I
it.
think it's fun. I like the little bit where Kermit tries to do all these escapes, but she knows all
Yeah,
of
it's
like
kind
the
of
paths
funny.
because she's like seen every like prison escape movie. I suppose that she's in love with Kermit.
Yeah,
Apparently,
that's
it's like a random route
that's
to go,
fucking
but
weird.
it's
I
very
don't know. That
funny.
was a
He's like this
weird ass
like
route to go
shrine
in,
to
but
him,
whatever.
and mm, and also I just think it's funny the way Kermit like he like it's because the way they find out he's not Constantine is because he was like polite to someone.
Yeah.
It's very silly.
Yeah,
Then they
you know
put on the
what?
big the prison musical thing. I think it's very fun. It's like
Yeah, you know what? Actually,
it's
maybe I
neat.
don't. Maybe actually, I'm thinking about it more. Maybe I like it more than I thought I was. I think I just wasn't thinking about
Yeah.
it much.
Very well. I'm so convincing. But yeah, yeah.
I
There's a
do.
lot of good bits there. I like. Sorry, yeah.
Um. Yeah, just go on. Yeah.
I forgot what I was saying. But yeah, I do kind of like what the character thing they do with Kermit, where it's like he's like distraught that they like none of them like recognize him and thinks that they've like moved on without him, and that kind of gets him like distressed about it. But I think it does lead to a sweet conclusion ultimately, where I think the setup is a little mixed, but I do like the idea where out of anything, see Kermit is like a big part, but I think Walter is definitely the main character of Muppets 2011 as a because like
Yeah, and he's
he's the
less
one driving the
prominent in
story, he's
this
the one
one,
who
but he's
sets
one of the people, like one of the Muppets that is like
yeah
suspicious of Constantine.
yeah. But I think that this one's definitely more focused on Kermit, right? And I like the well, I like the whole like resolution to it where they realize it's a movie that really shows what Kermit brings to the Muppets. And you might think, oh, that's
Yeah,
redundant, but it really shows Kermit as a character. He's always been the straight man, but he's always the one running everything. He's like if anything, was kind of I for a while. Kermit was like the representation of Jim's experience running the Muppet Show because he was like this sort of straight, casual person running everything behind the scenes as things got really stressful. Kermit is that for the Muppets. He's the glue that holds all of them together as a character. I think that's what makes him so endearing to so many people.
hmm
Why he's like lasted so long. Like there are so many Muppets from the 50s. No one cares about them anymore. You know Sam? Wait, not there's like Sam, not Sam the Eagle. There's another Sam. He died after the 50s, and like a bunch of other ones didn't even take off. Kermit has been here since like 1955, and he's never going anywhere. He's that like important to the Muppets as a DNA. And like this movie really shows why that is, and it really communicates all the stuff of why Kermit I think is a really strong force in a very endearing way. So I really like this movie actually for that. And the
yeah.
climax that leads up to that
The
is
whole
really
thing with
funny.
the
I love
wedding. I
the
like how Piggy figures out that it's Kermit by him like not saying yes to them getting married. I thought that was
yeah, oh,
funny.
I love that. That's so funny. It's great.
To be honest, this is
Um,
like both of these 2010 movies get a lot better the more I'm discussing it here. So I might raise my ratings for
yeah.
both of them if I'm being honest. Which I'll say
Oh,
my
we stay
like
winning. We stay
rating
winning.
too.
Mm.
But I feel like I appreciate this duology a lot, and I'm definitely ashamed that we
Yeah,
didn't get the that
I
third
really do because
film
I feel
that could have happened.
like I mentioned, these really brought a good like feel and energy to the
Yes.
Muppets that like they needed that after this like dark age of stuff. So the fact that they were like able to bring this very specific vibe, but had this heart and sincerity and humor, it really does. These movies are very underappreciated, I think, because
Mhm.
like people like them, but I don't think they're like overly loved from some people. I think it's kind of underappreciated. Like yeah, I really like these two a lot, especially this one. Like a lot of the bits that we mentioned the climax. I like the part where Kermit pretends to be the mirror for like Constantine to like blend in.
Yeah, it was
I know the
funny.
whole thing
There's
that's
a lot of
funny.
fun
And
moments like that.
the whole oh my god, I love the reveal that they like that Ricky Gervais is the lemur.
And he
That was him the
dresses
entire
up
time.
as a lemur near the end, only
Mm.
to get like
He's a
embarrassingly sent to prison.
uh, in a world where animals are alive, does that make him like if he's a furry, then what does that mean?
Oh my
Is he like
god, you're
wearing
right.
skin? Because lemurs are alive in this
Oh my
universe, right?
god, you're right. That's
Isn't he
a
just like wearing skin? Yeah, that's an odd
damn. That's
implication
a
to
yeah.
go to. But
Yeah, best not to
mm,
think about it.
but yeah, yeah. I love the part where they like get arrested, but Fozzie like breaks his legs with the police car to like sneak back in.
Yeah,
It's very
I also just like the
it's a
scene
funny
where
visual
Walter
when
and
he's walking
Fozzie
around.
come to that full realization through the green paint. That was funny.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, when like he puts his hand over the thing and then he gets caught by cops. I love the part where where like Kermit, well, not Kermit, Fozzie, Walter, and Animal are going to like the gulag to get Kermit. And for somehow in their journey, they go from like snow to desert to snow to somehow desert again. And
Yeah, that's
then
funny.
apparently the gulag is right beside a desert, despite it also
The
being like
being,
winter when we
yeah,
see it there.
doesn't make any
It's
fucking sense, but it's so
it's
funny.
so silly, but I
That
love
scene
it.
that like
They should have
confused me for
traveled
a
by
second,
map.
but I still thought it was
Yeah.
really funny.
Hmm. Yeah, also I love the part where Constantine tries to cover for it by saying, um he's like, "Oh, Walter and Fozzie have left the Muppets," and Rob's like, "Walter has left the Muppets? We had an entire
The movie
movie
where he
about them
joined the
joining the
Muppets.
Muppets." Yeah, it's funny.
I find that
And then
weird
that's
that
where I
like
mentioned that like Robin
that
joke
still didn't
from
like
before, but
convince some of them. I don't know.
yeah, I think the whole point is they're definitely pushed over the edge, but
Yeah,
none
I
of them want to
understand
like
that
confront them.
definitely,
It's like
but still,
I
it's
got the
it's like
whole
I
thing.
understand, like you said earlier, it's like a little bit far fetched, a bit. Like you can
I
kind of
think they
understand
push
with the
it a little bit.
justification. Yeah,
However, overall, I still think it works pretty well. It's
yeah,
just
it
not
works,
like
and I like the idea that they like learn to appreciate Kermit more by the end of it.
yeah,
Since yeah,
especially with the piggy thing. I like that a lot because they do the really good song where like Constantine's like, "I can give you anything you want, give you anything you need," and the whole thing is like how Miss Piggy likes us more because she Kermit's like appreciating and giving her everything. But then eventually she comes to the realization that like that she doesn't like she likes Kermit because he's more reined in and isn't gonna be so prone to this stuff. Like Constantine presents himself as to make the Muppets like him. It's like I said, it's a really good exploration of what Kermit like means to the Muppets in a way that I don't think the other Muppet movies like tackle that well. Take Manhattan kind of does when they split apart, but this one does it a lot better, I'd say. So
hmm
yeah,
um,
very very well done stuff.
yeah,
Also,
it's
speaking of
good.
Take Manhattan, I like when they play together again for that movie
Yeah, that
after
was
the
a
credits.
nice. That's a
It's
nice
very
one. Even
ironic
though
considering hmm, it's called Together Again, and there wasn't another theatrical Muppet movie after this, but
yeah, they were together again
okay,
for a bit, but then they were
a
no
little
longer
bit.
together
Oh,
again.
it's funny when she gets the song cut off.
Yeah, it was a funny
The,
joke. Even though I feel
the
like on the wall, all the like people stuck on the wall look kind of fake in that way.
Some of it is definitely obviously green screen. I like the visual of it because it looks funny, all the puppets,
Yeah,
but
the
some of
puppets
them
all
definitely
look
look like
like they're
CGI.
actually on the wall, but that's because it's easier to put them on the wall because they're puppets. So like, yeah, but it's still a great song and a great ending, you know. It's a great movie. It's a good great.
Yeah,
This is a great duology which
yeah,
helped like I kind of wish I
yeah. I think
watched
it's a very hmm, I think it's a very underappreciated personally,
yeah, I kind
but
of wish I watched this after I watched the other direct to DVD ones because then I could like, see what a real Muppet movie was like after those. So, but whatever. I did watch these before because I was more eager to
yeah, I
revisit
am.
them.
It's it's kind of ironic. I'm most nostalgic for this one and Take Manhattan because I don't know if you remember this. Those were the only ones that used to be on Canadian Netflix, so I got to watch them the most wanted and Manhattan. And when I got Disney Plus, I replayed the original Muppet movie and Caper a lot, so I was into those a lot.
That's
But
cool.
yeah, Most Wanted is a big childhood classic for me. I watched this one very solid handful of times as a kid. I think before I saw the 2011 movie actually, so the whole sequel bit I didn't really get. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I think we'll get to
it's
our
fun.
ratings now. Unless you
Yeah, I will give this one a very solid 8
I'm
because
gonna give
I
it
think it's
like
very good yeah.
go
Sorry,
on.
yeah.
You could
Well,
go.
I was
Go.
gonna say I'll get to it because It's funny. I before we watched these for the video, I was of the opinion that I think I preferred this to the 2011 one, and
Mm.
in part I still do because I think it's very funny, very entertaining. However, I think 2011 edges it a little bit because I think that's a more well-rounded movie,
Yeah, I
and
agree.
I really like the impact it has. Most Wanted is still very funny. I think not even that far behind. I just think
Hmm.
2011 might be the more solid scripted. The Most Wanted is still up there for being very funny and has a very sincere point to it. So
Yes.
yeah, that's my take.
I'll give it like a high 7 to low 8 range. I've been like very confused. I've been like always back and forth with my ratings on both of these Muppet movies because they're definitely around the like the first one is around 8 to 9, this is around 7 to 8. I might raise both of those ratings later, but as of now I have
Mm.
2011 at an 8 and this at a 7, but I might raise them. Who knows? Because it does get these
Yeah.
both get better the longer I think about it, and I genuinely have a great time watching the both of them. So yeah, they're great movies.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Hmm.
that's a
Yeah.
wrap.
I guess
That's
it's I guess that's it. I guess I just share overall thoughts. I'm I'm very glad we did these movies because the Muppets as a franchise, it means a lot to me. So I'm glad we got to talk about all these movies. We kind of been on a bittersweet note because Most Wanted bombed very
mhm.
sadly. It was like it barely made back its budget, which is very tragic considering how big the
Yeah,
2011 movie was. I don't know. I guess it just came out near like a bad place, maybe. But regardless, it wasn't doing too hot, which is unfortunate. I think they wanted to do more, but because it just didn't do well enough, they couldn't. And now it's like, it's done. The the Muppets haven't had a movie since. And they've done like there was Haunted Mansion, which was on Disney Plus, which we won't talk about because it's more of a special than a movie. But I remember it being like okay, like at the time it was
yeah, it
fine,
was all right.
not like
That was one
amazing.
of like there's
Um,
definitely better Muppet content out there, but it's like a
yeah, I
fine
remember.
little
I remember. It's
special.
funny. I remember really liking it at the time, but I haven't had like a urge to rewatch it and
Yeah, same. I originally
like
liked it
since.
quite a bit
So
too,
it's
but
like
yeah, it's fine though.
it's just kind of gotten worse because I feel like all the other Muppet movies I've had a motivation to go back to, whereas this it's like not really. It's like I don't
Mhm.
really care. But
Yeah.
yeah, it just kind of it's frustrating because Disney like they'll constantly proclaim they don't know what to do with the Muppets, and it pisses me off because you could make the Muppets are a franchise that thrives on creativity. You could do so much with them,
Yeah, so much more
and
than just
yet
a
they only
haunted
give them
mansion parody thing.
yeah, exactly. And all they do is give them one season shows that they cancel immediately. Don't market at all. Do you know that they did a show about the Electric Mayhem last year?
They did? Oh, wait, I think I might have heard this.
Exactly. You don't
What?
even. Yeah, no, but you want to know why you had to question it? Because they didn't fucking market it. It's on Disney Plus, which is a big streaming service everyone has, but they don't market it, so no one saw Electric Mayhem, including me. And I love the Electric Mayhem; they're fun characters, but I didn't feel compelled to watch it because they didn't market it enough, or did they show anything that made it seem like it'd be worthwhile? And it's like, see, look, 2011 gave the Muppets this real spark, this real energy that I think carried on into Most Wanted, and they had a good rhythm going.
Mhm.
But like the Muppets really needs another spark again. Because I notice whenever the Muppets gets this new life into it that really breathes in, it's where their best works come from. Henson had this energy and this pumped up feel going into the original Muppet movie. And that really carried on because that's one of their best projects. And then the Caper followed suit. Manhattan, while I don't like that movie as much, it has this big spark of Frank Oz's direction for it and this
Yeah.
idea about success that it comes from. Christmas Carol has this big passion project and tribute for Henson and all that real, and then it really shines through. The Muppets haven't had something like that since Most Wanted, and it's frustrating because I want it so badly, but Disney just won't let it happen, and the right person doesn't come with a script. It just, I'm sorry I'm rambling, but this gets me kind of
Yeah,
mad.
I
It's like fuck,
understand.
you can make a really good Muppet movie, but Disney just doesn't care.
Yeah,
It
they
makes me
don't
so
give a
mad.
shit. They gotta
See,
use
everyone
these
knows who the
characters.
Muppets are now. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
now they're
like
gonna have to
everyone
make
knows what a
another
Muppet is, but they
Muppets
won't name it.
2011 thing where they gotta get a they
Yeah,
all
I was
gotta
saying,
they gotta do the
mm,
same thing they did in
yeah.
2011 now. You know,
You
they
know, see,
gotta
it's kind of funny. Like, no joke, we're like we're almost in the same situation as the 2000s era now. Like maybe not as big of a dark age with bad content, but we're kind of in that phase again.
Yeah,
The Muppets
because
have
there are
phased
some
out
of
of
the
public
Muppet stuff is
consciousness
just on
because they just
Disney
don't care.
Plus, and yeah, even Kermit doesn't
Yeah,
sound the same anymore.
and
He's played by a different actor, and it's
yeah,
very distracting.
because Steve Whitmire left, which but I'm not sure exactly. There's a whole thing about that. I think Steve Whitmire got like either fired or he got left due to creative differences, but in reality they were firing him and wanted to make it look like he
Wow.
like it's a whole shitty situation. I don't. It's because I don't think a lot of the recent like Muppet people, like a lot of the legacy Muppet people, are not like approving of where things are at now. Because Steve Whitmire, he said he was fired under repeated unacceptable business conduct, which is very vague, and I don't know even know what this like is referring to. So this could all be bullshit. And I think even Frank Oz, he's like had issues with how the Muppets are now. And he was like Jim's closest friend. He knows the franchise better than anyone who's currently like alive. So
Yeah.
clearly the Muppets, I don't want to end this on a sour note, but the Muppets need to get better. And I don't know what's gonna cause that, but I want better for the Muppets because I love these guys so much. I
Yeah,
want
we
another
need we
great
need more
Muppet movie.
Muppets.
I
We
don't
need
know.
more of that.
We need to bring the Muppets back together again, you know?
Yeah, get the band back
Like
together. Anyways, to
mhm.
conclude this episode, we might do another one on some of the other two Christmas Muppet movies, maybe at some point. But as of now, this is it. It was a fun thing to talk about
Mhm.
some of the Muppet movies and the overall eras. But yeah. Anyways, thank you for tuning in for another episode of Campy Cast. We'll be back at some point in next couple weeks, probably. Who knows?
Mhm.
But thank you for tuning in, and bye
Yeah.
bye.
Stay tuned.